You're listening to MinerTalk on demand exclusively on 600 ESPN El Paso. Stay up to date with MinerTalk by downloading the free 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app.
All right, we are here and we are back. It is MinerTalk, and it is a nightmare of a show. Oh, man, we're going to get spooky here tonight, and we're going to be out here late here on this Saturday evening. We'll pour into Sunday morning. Along with Alberto Ureta, Chris Kolonek from Inspo Lens, I'm Adrian Broadus. UTEP Zay Galindo will be joining us soon enough. Sal Montes finishing up the post-game show with 95.5 KLAQ. Oh, man, this is an absolute travesty. UTEP ends up losing this one in overtime, 27-24 to Southern Utah out of the FCS ranks. And this was just an absolute nightmare of a game for UTEP. Thanks to Chris, some guy Chris on social media, Twitter and X, he was noting that 14 penalties for over 130 yards is the most that a UTEP football team had in a single game since 2005. This one was just nightmarish, guys. And I don't even know where to begin. I think the Miner fan base is rocked. They are stumped on this one right here because of all the hype, all the excitement that came in for UTEP football all offseason long. This is so tough. This is, Alberto, I think this one stings UTEP Miner fans in a big way because not only did they come to the Sun Bowl expecting a victory tonight, some expected a lopsided victory tonight in favor of the Miners. There was the whole thing that happened yesterday with head coach Delane Fitzgerald of Southern Utah, trashing the program, trashing the city of El Paso, knocking Juarez, our sister city, and UTEP came out strong in the second half, laid an absolute egg, ended up losing this one right here. Instant reactions from you after this loss.
Well, just like everyone else in the city, obviously we're extremely disappointed with the team's performance. A lot of people in the city were predicting a large margin of victory. Obviously, I wasn't one of those people. I knew that this was going to be a tight matchup, and so I know that those people walk away extremely disappointed. But I know that another reason that people feel extremely disappointed after this matchup is because it kind of felt like the Miners kind of had to defend the city there, right? It was like they were the ones who took the field for us after Delaney, the head coach for the southeastern Utah. Forgive me.
I got you.
For the Thunderbirds, the coach, after he said the comments, it was kind of like we all wanted to take the field and give them a piece of our minds. Not all of us are able to get out there, and so. Yeah, it was extremely disappointing. The penalties are the sign of an extremely undisciplined team, and so there's still a lot of room for improvement. Not the way you want to open your season, especially not at home in front of 41,000 people.
41,609 fans were out there out at the Sun Bowl. Disappointing ending. You want to talk about it with us, 915-505-6009. We'll just open up the phone lines right away. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, which is blowing up right now. There are so many people who want to chime in on Twitter and X. We are live thanks to Inspo Lens on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter and X as well. There's so much going on right now as far as UTEP football. And, yeah, there's just a lot to say for this one right here. So if you want to give us a call, 915-505-6009. I think a lot of people are caught up right now, either in the traffic, caught up just right after the game, still making their way to their car. And I think this one is going to be just a really lengthy MinerTalk and one that people will feel very passionate about either way. Let's go to Twitter and X, 600 ESPN El Paso and Twitter and X with the hashtag MinerTalk right now. By the way, MinerTalk is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Hey, we're going to be up until probably 3 in the morning, maybe even 4 in the morning if this show gets really crazy. We're going to be nominating plays giveaways for the Jack of all plays. People can nominate their favorite play from the game. You could pick a winner. And thanks to Jack in the Box for sponsoring us here on Miner Talk. With 15 locations, are open 24/7 in El Paso and Las Cruces. Jack in the Box is the perfect spot before and after every game. Also, big shout out to the Oscar Arieta Agency. Check out riseup915.com. Tag Oscar Arieta Agency and 600 ESPN El Paso, and make sure you tune in to 600 ESPN El Paso online for some other giveaways here in the future with the Oscar Arieta Agency. The other two things that are going to really infuriate fans, I mean, okay, let's take it back, because the Miners were down before the end of regulation. They were down 24-17 with just over 2 minutes to go. It was Southern Utah who was able to kick a field goal and extend their lead a little bit more, force UTEP to at least tie the game. They were up 24-17, 2:40 left in the fourth quarter. UTEP ends up marching down the field. It was Skylar Locklear, quarterback, who hit wide receiver Jaden Smith for a 41-yard gain all the way down to the Southern Utah 29-yard line. UTEP takes a timeout, 4th and game coming up. Skylar Locklear gets the first down on a 4th down play. UTEP went all the way down to the 10, 1st and goal situation, but then penalties hurt the Miners. They got called for holding, and they had a horse collar penalty on the opposing team. The Thunderbirds had a horse collar tackle that ends up saving the game. If that holding penalty would have stood, that 10-second runoff would have hit, and UTEP loses the game right there. Southern Utah wins 24-17. But then they repeat 3rd down, only 9 seconds left, and UTEP hits the Philly special. It was actually Skylar Locklear who hit Jaden Smith, and then Jaden Smith gives it back to Skylar Locklear on the wide receiver pass for a touchdown. It was a huge play, sent the game to overtime. Free football out at the Sun Bowl, as Sicko's committee said. And then UTEP defensively, they started stepping up. They had a little bit of momentum on this side. Katie Johnson had a big sack on the night, and it was the second sack at that point. Southern Utah converted on a huge 3rd down play. Then they got penalized, brought back, end up kicking a field goal. So I think UTEP fans at this point, they thought, hey, a touchdown wins the game. The Miners could actually win the game and pull this one off somehow in a crazy fashion. Nope. Instead, UTEP's drive stalls. They had 2 different chances to kick a field goal, and both of them fall flat from field goal kicker Buzz Flabiano. You could blame the field goal kicking. You could blame the inefficiencies on offense. You could blame the fact that the play calling down the stretch was a little questionable and maybe a little bit overthought at certain points. But there are 2 things that I'm pointing my finger of blame here after this loss. Number 1, it's the 14 penalties. And number 2, it's the inexperience and almost the mismatch that is currently presenting itself for the Miners inside the trenches. I thought second half and really second quarter on, Southern Utah established themselves inside the trenches. Offensive line, defensive line. That's the difference of it. And that scares me, Alberto, because this is a Division I FBS team here in UTEP. They can't lose out on an offensive line battle against an FCS squad like this. This cannot happen here in the future. And then on the flip side, on the D-line for UTEP, they got pushed around. I thought Southern Utah was able to establish a ground game that was very strong and they ran hard in this matchup when it was all said and done.
Yeah, it was really disappointing to see UTEP get dominated in the trenches. We've said it once, we'll say it again. These football games are won in the trenches, so to see yourself get dominated by a team that's in the lower echelons of their divisions, of their football, that's not what you want to see. And also, just the question that came to my mind about the offensive line is, well, where do you go from here? It's game 2. You can't recruit in the middle of the season. How are you going to drastically improve the O-line to give your quarterbacks the time that they need to make plays? That's really the question in my mind right now.
Okay, we've got full phone lines already, 915-505-6009. Let's just get to it. Let's start it off. It is Francisco who's joining us first. Francisco, good evening. What's going on?
Yeah, good evening. All right, here we're devastated from going to the game. We were expecting better from our team. We bought 20 tickets to go in, and the team didn't perform. On the second half, towards the end. The kicker messed up twice, and then on overtime they messed up on choosing the side score against the wind, so that affected those two missed kicks. But after the first missed kick, I think the coach should have went for it on fourth down because the kicker is no good. And the worst situation is that we lost against lower ranked school.
FCS school, not a lower division, but an FCS school. You're exactly right, Francisco.
School, yes, and also we were also we wanted to support our city. You know how that coach mocked us on yesterday and everything, so we wanted to be there and beat the team for different reasons, right? But the team didn't do good at all in the second half, and they couldn't stop the running game. But the calls towards the end, we had a lot of chances to win it. You can say luckily towards our favor, and we didn't punch it through.
No, they did not. They had multiple opportunities, Francisco. I appreciate your phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in on the program. They had Francisco brings up a good point. It wasn't just one opportunity. It was multiple opportunities by the UTEP Miners. They had multiple chances to close this one out. They had multiple chances, even in the first quarter or in the first half to put more points on the board and to have more success. But instead, they fell short in this game. I think it was disappointing on a lot of people's accounts from how this one ended up. So let's keep it moving. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. If you're trying to get in, continue to try so. We just freed up a phone line. Let's go to Antonio next. Antonio, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, man. So I'm just upset at the game. I think this falls on Scotty Walden completely. The players kicked butt. They did their thing. Another thing, very curious, I'm trying to post on X at UTEP football, and it disappears. So what's going on there? Are they censoring us or what?
Uh-oh. Are they trying to, trying to hide us right now? No, I'm looking at it right now. I'll just say maybe it's a little spotty connection, Antonio. I hope they didn't block you or anything like that. That's no good. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. So, and I don't like it from the program's perspective. So I don't think that ends up happening. I'm just chalking it up to your service right there. But for this team right here, Antonio, I'm with you. I think that a lot of Miner fans are really disappointed. I think a lot of Miner fans had a chip on their shoulder going into this matchup, hoping that UTEP could silence Coach Fitzgerald for all the wrong things that he said about the community, and even our sister city in Juarez. So I think this one left a really sour taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, not only that. Like I'm telling you, the coaching decisions right now, they look horrible. He brought a bunch of people from Austin P because they were the best and all this stuff. Like, they're playing like FCS again. So this is nonsense. They need to get some real players in here.
All right, man. I appreciate it, Antonio. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for calling in on the program, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey, we'll keep it moving. 915-505-6009, 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600ESPNElPaso.com here later on the program, where you could check out some of the articles up later on the show. Hey, I also want to mention a big shout-out to all our callers here on the program. We've got one phone line available right now, so if you're trying to get in, give us a call, 915-505-6009. Coming up next, it's Carlos who's joining us next. Carlos, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, boys? I think everyone just said it. It's a disappointing loss tonight, but for me personally, the main issue was the play calling on both sides of the ball, right? There were so many times throughout this game where Southern Utah's quarterback, it'd be 3rd and 15, and he would just scramble with absolutely no one covering him. And it happened so many times that you begin questioning whether or not, why not put a spy on him? Why not try something a little bit different instead of just sending a full-out blitz in those types of situations? And, you said it earlier best, Adrian, where the play calling got too cute, way too cute towards the latter half of the games, right? Trying to be smart instead of just trying to move the ball down the field, And, yeah, those are the initial thoughts I had during this game and even afterwards.
Yeah, Carlos, I'm just actually, it's kind of still settling in. This feels like a nightmare. I mean, honestly, it really feels like one. Dana Dimmel, in his first home game here at UTEP, lost 30-10 to Northern Arizona. That was a top 25 FCS program at the time, Northern Arizona. Southern Utah last year finished 6-5 in their respective league in the FCS ranks, so they're not necessarily like a top 50 program out of the FCS division, and they came into El Paso and beat them. And I'll be honest with you, in the second half, they outmatched UTEP. I felt like the Miners really struggled in that second half, Carlos.
For sure. The second half was, like, again, you said it best, nightmarish. It just felt as if UTEP was helpless. Just nothing could go right. And, again, I'm honestly lost at words. Honestly, Adrian, this was just really bad.
I hear you, man. Hey, I appreciate it, Carlos. Thanks for weighing in on the program. Thanks for voicing your frustrations with us. We've got phone lines available, 915-505-6009. Let's keep it moving. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600 ESPNElPaso.com. Let's move on along. It is Lance who's joining us next. Oh, Lance, we've been here before, my friend. This is not you're calling me here on MinerTalk. We've had this discussion before. Is it ever going to change, Lance?
Well, first of all, I think I'm going to share the same sentiment that everyone does. It is very disappointing, but I'm going to look at it a different way. Yes, 14 penalties, questionable play calling. Yes, there's a lot of things that need to be cleaned up, but if you look at this team as opposed to in years past, once the team went down, you knew at that point it was over. But for them to go ahead and, put together a drive to send the game to at least overtime and give yourself an opportunity, I think that shows some character for this team. So I'm going to look at it a different way. I'm going to take a positive out of it, even though it is a very disappointing loss. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you this, Lance, how far they fell in the third quarter. I mean, it was atrocious. I'll give you a couple stats, and I'm trying to be light on some of these words that I'm using right here, but it's just the reality. At the end of the third quarter, Southern Utah, in just that quarter alone, they outgained UTEP in total yards, 100 to just 22. That's unacceptable. UTEP went in that quarter alone 0 for 3 on third downs. They had 3 penalties for 25 yards, and they failed to average more than 3 yards per play. End of the third quarter, the Miners were just non-existent. It's like they skipped that third quarter right there. Fourth quarter rolls around, Southern Utah or UTEP gets on the move, and they get some life on their side of things, but they're not able to score all the way until the end of the game. So you're right. The urgency that was there, even the creativity that was there on that the UTEP Philly special pass, the touchdown pass from Jaden Smith to Skylar Locklear. I thought those were bright moments. But if you don't execute for the final stretch, if you don't close out the game and win it, then what are those points right there? You don't get points for morale, and I get it. They're still trying to find their identity, but it's an inexcusable loss right here at Lance.
I would completely agree with that, especially having only 5 home games this year. If you go 5-0 at home, you just need one win on the road to be bowl eligible. Now you put yourself in a very difficult position. But, it is the second game of a new regime. It is a bad loss, but I think we need to give them an opportunity to bounce back.
No doubt, Lance. I agree with that completely. It's very early in the season. Like I mentioned, I really don't feel like UTEP has an identity right now on both sides of the ball. I feel like they lack that identity. I think that identity could come in October, and maybe it's coming with some of the younger players, some of the younger talent on this roster. Maybe it's with some of the different talent that you're not seeing on the field right now. But regardless, something needs to kind of change here to shake things up on this team early. I know it's early in the year, and I know this team is very new and very fresh to everything. I know this coaching staff is very young as well. So I think they're going to look inward when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And I think they're going to try to readjust here moving forward. Hey, we had a chat coming in from YouTube. Thank you for this one here, Chris, on Inspo Lens. This is from Aaliyah Tucker. It's disappointing loss, but it's even more disappointing that the fans are not giving the team a chance. The season isn't over. I completely agree. I mean, I'm saying that right now. I completely agree when it comes to, the fact that the season is not over. It's not all doom and gloom. This is just a nightmarish start. This is a long season. That's why I get a little concerned with things like this, where UTEP drops a game in which they're supposed to beat. On paper, they were a 7-point favorite. And in the second half, they just didn't look like that same team. Do I think UTEP will go winless? Do I think the season's over? No, of course not. There's a lot of opportunity for this team to have other, chances throughout the year. But this is a red flag to me. I mean, at least to start things off, you have to win a game like this that is as highly anticipated as it was. I mean, the hype was through the roof for this game. So for fans to try to downplay, oh, it's just the first game. This is an FCS team. This was all the hype. This was sold to UTEP fans for excitement and for a huge performance by the Miners. And you know what? It was a back-and-forth game. It was very entertaining, if you want to take it that route. But, the season isn't over. It's just a bad start right here, a nightmarish start, having lost to an FCS opponent here. And we'll talk more about the roadmaps and where this season could go. But as far as saying the season's over, no, I'm not saying the season's over. Quite the contrary. The season has just started, and this is not the best start that you can have here for this UTEP football program. 915-505-6009. Fernie is next, then we'll go to Sergio. Fernie, good evening. What's going on?
Oh, man. I mean, you know what? I mean, I knew it like from the start when Warren got, Scotty got hired and stuff, this rah-rah coach stuff, and he brings this whole staff, which is unorthodox. When you hire, you started, you come to a team and stuff, and then he brought a lot of his players over. I mean, it was just like, wait, I mean, what's he doing here? Okay, he's hooking up all his young, assistants to a mid-major team, and then his players, he's bringing them over to maybe they wouldn't have. I mean, if it wasn't for UTEP, they might not be playing at a mid-major team. And I mean, I could see the guy at the sidelines today just all over the place. He needs to tone it down, right? And maybe that was the problem at halftime. Where at halftime where they were doing their little rah-rah routine and they didn't adjust.
I mean, that's kind of interesting, right? Because what'd you think of the fire extinguisher? What'd you think of the rally towels on the sideline?
My God. Look, you know what? It's just he's not ready for prime time here, and it's showing, and it's like, you need to tone it down and become a coach and stop arguing with the refs, and then, all these penalties. And it's like, it just showed, and it's just, it was an embarrassment, what happened in the second half. And I can almost guarantee what was going on in that locker room. Everybody was probably just jumping up and down probably and saying they were going to win. It's like, man, that's not the way you do it. I mean, you should have just toned it down and said, hey, look, these guys might adjust, and which they did, and it's an FCS team, so really, you're looking at a 0-4 start, probably. NMSU, I mean, last time I looked, they were beating Liberty. They're still continuing, their third-year streak on beating teams. That's the way to do things, and I can't believe I'm talking about that because, I don't like an MSU, but I mean, that's, it's just aggravating that Warren over here is playing cheerleader, and it's like, dude, this is different, man. This is totally different, and then you got it handed to you, and what are you going to do to adjust? Are you going to still jump up and down, on the sidelines? And I mean, it's different. He's younger. Maybe the players can, relate to him, but it didn't work. It didn't work for Nebraska. It didn't work right now. And, what are we going to face? We're going to face Liberty on the road and Colorado State on the road. And this is not looking like I'm looking at 0-12 here. I'm really looking at 0-12 here,
All right, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the 0-12 possibility here in just a little bit. But I also just want to say this, Fernie, and hey, I appreciate your phone call. You're a UTEP diehard. You know your stuff when it comes to UTEP football, so I appreciate your thoughts. I appreciate your take here on the program. My thoughts on all this right here, I think to say that, to go back and start questioning some of the moves and tactics and all of that is a little unfair because there was a lot of fans who just were on board for all the hype. Now, let's say you didn't necessarily love the hype and you didn't love the rah-rah stuff and you wanted to see what they could do on the field before you bought in on the program. That's totally fine. That's acceptable right there if you're skeptical when it comes to just the hype and just that rah-rah stuff until you see the product on the field. So for those people who bought in to the hype and bought into all the excitement, well, they were let down today. I just got a text from a longtime friend of the program, Locomotive Miner, who said, I have some friends that were brought in who bought in with Scotty. They never come to games. They came today and they're never coming back. Scotty lost a lot of potential new fans already, unfortunately. And that's just the reality. The UTEP diehards are always going to be bought in. They're always going to go to the games. They're always going to support. They're always going to listen here to MinerTalk and voice their frustrations. But the Fairweather fans, the fans who come from time to time, who don't necessarily always spend their time at UTEP games, they're out. They're going to be checked out completely after Southern Utah defeats UTEP. Is that fair? No, I don't think that's necessarily fair, but it's understandable if you're a Fairweather fan and that's the kind of person you are where you're going to just go somewhere different with your hard-earned money and for your entertainment kind of dollars. Now the roadmap to 0-12. That's a reality, right? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I would be shocked if this team went 0-12. I predicted them to go 4-8. That I had them beating Southern Utah on my predictions, though, so I was already wrong on that. Next week, Liberty, just like Fernie said. The week after that, it's Colorado State. Then they get a bye week. I don't think we're really going to understand what kind of UTEP team this is until the first week of October when they take on Sam Houston, for better or for worse. And when I say worse, I'm also talking about Conference USA, which isn't good. I mean, I crowned Liberty the jewel of the conference, and right now, just like Fernie mentioned, New Mexico State is leading 24-15 in Las Cruces with 5 to go. And just as I say that, Liberty broke through with a touchdown run right now, trying to put some more points on the board, maybe even tie this one up with 5 to go in this game. But the point is, this is a bad conference. This is a bad league. UTEP has opportunities to have success in this conference. Will they seize that opportunity? We'll find out. I mean, I think that right now they've got an uphill battle. It's going to be a test of character, a test of the coaching staff to see what kind of momentum they can reinstill in this team. I mean, you check that sideline in the second half, the body language was terrible. Can that be improved? Of course. Of course it can. So I'm just going to be interested to see how they do it. This is a nightmarish start for a season that, hey, Alberto, when it comes to a roadmap, 0-12 is not outside the realm of possibility.
No, definitely not, especially as the weeks go on. And I know that, it's a game of football. Injuries can and definitely will pile on if you're not careful. Luckily, the Miners have, a bye week sprinkled in there. I just want to comment about the antics of the team and the coaches on the sideline pre and then into the second half. I have this very particular take on the way teams act when they come out of the locker room right before the game. And if you don't sustain that energy throughout the entirety of the match, then the other team can quickly point to you and say, well, look, they're not doing all those shenanigans they were doing at the beginning of the game. We must be kicking their butts pretty good. And that just kind of fuels your team. So that's my issue with the energy. You have to sustain the energy the entire game, all 4 quarters, because if you don't, the other team will point to you and be like, look, we're kicking their butts. They got their tail between their legs. They're not acting the way they were. They're not all confident. So that's my issue. If you're going to be confident the whole way through, because if not, in my opinion, it looks bad on your team.
Okay, let's keep it moving. 915-505-6009. We got one line available. So if you've been trying to get into the program, now's the time to do it. 915-505-6009. Coming up next is Sergio. Then we'll go to Matt. We also have to mention this. I just saw this right now. I mean, this is a staggering stat. Southern Utah had 268 yards on the ground tonight on 47 carries. Wow. 47 carries, 268 on the ground. They average almost 6 yards a carry on the ground here tonight in this win. Hey, we're presented by Jack in the Box. Also, big shout out to the Oscar IDF Agency, the District Pub and Kitchen West, and New Start Homes in Wind Supply El Paso for sponsoring us here on Miner Talk. Let's keep it moving. Sergio is next. 915-505-6009, 600 ESPN El Paso, Twitter, X, and also our 600 ESPN El Paso YouTube stream, which is powered by Inspo Lens. Sergio, good evening. What's going on, my man?
Hey, how's it going, Adrian?
It's going all right, Sergio. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Just got back from the game. Great game if you're a football fan. Overtime, you got everything going on the line. Scotty Walden tried to get his first win, first home game, everything, It felt like it was a sellout crowd. I don't know if it was, but the energy was there. And I think, wow, what a good game to watch. Unfortunately, we got the bad end of it. But you could start seeing the players, who are the stars, from the Nebraska game to the game now. Who are the stars coming out?
Okay, let me ask you. Let me stop you there, Sergio. Who are some of the stars in your eyes?
The cornerbacks right now on the defense are doing really good. And you got to say, on the offense, we got the quarterback. I think Locklear, he's a man, and he's got to go forward thinking he is the man, and he's got to lead this team, get everyone together. So those are my offensive, defensive stars right there.
Okay, you like the corners, you like the quarterbacks. Those are your stars so far. Sergio, how do they move forward? Okay, how do they move forward here the rest of the season?
Think about who Southern Utah played before. They got Utah, a game that they dominated today against a really good team, and Utah State. They've all been moving forward, moving up. And then now we got Southern Utah. They're not a team that's right behind a team like Kennesaw State or Jacksonville State or someone that's in Conference USA. So, that's a pretty good team out there. They were well coached. They did what they had to do. And unfortunately, they did what they had to do against us, and they got the win. And now we got to regroup. I still think we got a great season ahead of us. I believe in the culture that Scotty Walden's trying to bring here. And I believe we're still in a great, side to probably, do good in this conference that's kind of, everywhere. Like you just said, Liberty and NMSU. NMSU's about to win.
But Sergio, let me stop you real quick because I'm going crazy here hearing this right here. What is good in your eyes? Like winning 3 games out of Conference USA, winning 4? Like what's good in your eyes as far as success in Conference USA?
In Conference USA right now, what UTEP needs to do is, of course, they need to win the conference. It hasn't been done in such a long time.
All right, thank you for the phone call, Sergio. Let's move along. 915-505-6009. That's our telephone number. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600 ESPNElPaso.com. Sorry, guys, I can't talk conference championships after losing to an FCS opponent. I have no patience for that right now, guys. Does that make me a little blunt or brutal right there on just kind of cutting that conversation off a little short there, Sal? I just don't think that talking conference titles, and let me just say this. Southern Utah came in. They had a decent performance in this matchup. They had 9 penalties for 80 yards themselves. So they had sloppy points of this game. They didn't necessarily light the world on fire, but still with this Southern Utah team, I'm not going to tout this team like anybody in Conference USA, Sal. No. I'm not going to necessarily tell you that they are a team that you got to keep an eye out for on the radar. Every other Conference USA team last week, most of them, I should say, played an FCS opponent, and everybody escaped from being defeated last week and upset by FCS opponents last week. This week, UTEP gets upset by an FCS team in Southern Utah.
Yeah, I don't understand the Conference USA championship talk. This is year 20. They haven't even sniffed the championship game. They've sniffed it. They've sniffed it once in men's sports, or twice, rather, maybe 3 times. And this is all basketball. So I know it's not more than 3. So if I'm wrong there, my bad. But as far as championship talk, I can understand it because the team they play next week was in the Conference USA championship.
There you go.
And guess what? If we're doing proximity, it's on there. I'm lagging on this stream. FBI will never catch me. No, but the Aggies made their Conference USA championship in their inaugural year. So I guess UTEP can claim that by proximity.
There you go. There you go. Sal Montes, the co-host here on Miner Talk, is in, and I didn't introduce you formally. I was caught off guard by that call, so I just had to react with you really quick on that one. Man, we are back. We are officially back, Sal. This is the most back that we've ever been. This is year 5 of Miner Talk. We're presented by Jack in the Box, and thanks to the Oscar Ariete Agency, the District Pub and Kitchen, the Wind Supply El Paso, and New Start Homes for sponsoring us here on Miner Talk. We are back, Sal, and we are talking another disappointing loss. We're going to be here forever.
This is it's a painful one. And the crazy part is it was the home opener under a new coach, but it's the same exact feeling, man. It's an ugly loss. We hear all the time how fans need to go out and support. Well, guess what? 3rd time's a charm, right? Not really, because this is the 3rd biggest crowd they've seen in the last, 2-3 years. And it's unacceptable, man. You got to be able to capitalize on it. I don't care if it's an FCS team. If you're trying to uphold a standard in the culture that you're building, I guess you can't be losing to a team like Southern Utah, even if you're UTEP football, who's FBS. So I understand it, given history. If somebody was born maybe 15 years ago or so, and they're like, you know what, it's not that far-fetched for Southern Utah to beat UTEP. Okay, that's fine. But if you remember the early Mike Price days, who never lost to an FCS team, okay, look it up. This is something that you got to have a higher standard for. But the sad part is, standard is not losing to a FCS team. However, it is not making the bowl game either. So there has to be a lot of improvement, man. I know it's a lot of upset people, and I'm one of them. And it's still early, but this is something that you can't be excited about. The momentum right now is basically dead. I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like.
Yeah, I don't know either. We just talked about a possible roadmap to 0-12, Sal. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we'll revisit that with Zay later on here in the program. We've got Matt, George, and Mike on the lines. We've got Alberto in the house as well. Chris on Inspo Lens has us live on YouTube and Twitter and X as well, so you can watch us, you can listen to us live, and of course, you could also check us out afterward on our Miner Talk podcast. You mentioned UTEP had 3 games where there was a lot of hype, a lot of anticipation going into the Sun Bowl, where they fell flat. Let's review those games. 2021, UTSA comes to town. It's a 6-3 UTEP team that year. This is the year that UTEP actually went to a bowl game under Dana Dimmel and, of course, quarterback Gavin Hardison. UTSA was ranked 25th in the country. They came to town here in El Paso. El Paso put up 35,000 in attendance, and UTSA came in and destroyed UTEP 44-23. That was the final. How about the 9-1-5 game? This was 2022. Home opener for UTEP that year. All the hype. Coming off a bowl game and coming off a bowl appearance out at the PUBG New Mexico Bowl. They go up against North Texas, and they lose 31-13 following a lightning delay that kept fans in the concourse area forever, and that home opener was spoiled. It was a sold-out crowd of 46,000 plus, Everybody was hyped for this game, the 9-1-5 game, and they fell flat in that one, lost 31-13. In this one, FCS team, all the hype in the world when it comes to head coach Scotty Walden and company, and they end up dropping it in this one in overtime, 27-24. Back to the phone lines we go, 915-505-6009. Matt is next on the phone lines. Matt, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, it was, it was a beautiful night. The crowd was great. The students were awesome. There's a lot of students there even till the end, so that was all good. It was a disappointing loss. I can't believe they can't find a better kicker on the campus.
I know. Hey, we were talking in the group chats right now about some different kickers who could go out for it. And, hey, Buzz Flabiano just recently earned a scholarship, so he obviously did something in the offseason to impress some of the coaches, right? He went ice cold at the end. That was just I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I don't know what to deal with. And, I was in the north end zone during the fourth quarter when the Miners were driving to the south end zone, and there was a car that turns its headlights on as the Miners are driving towards the end zone, and it was very distracting. I don't know how it was.
Wait, like on the field?
It was in the where you can drive up the south end zone there, where you can drive the ambulances up. There on the top of the ramp.
Makes sense.
I don't know how it was from the huddle, but it was very distracting from the north end zone, and it turned its lights off. And then right before he kicked that field goal, first one that he missed, it turned his lights back on. I was like, what is going on? Again, I don't know how distracting it was to the players, but from the north end zone, from the party zone there, party patio.
That's interesting.
It was real obvious. And then the other thing is, it's the PA announcer is playing loud music when we have the ball. And when the quarterback's trying to hear it, he's like covering his ears. We're playing loud music, getting the crowd hyped up, too close to when they're snapping when we're on offense. I'm like, let me get up to the booth. Let me control that stuff.
I like it. I like that.
It drives me crazy. I understand doing it when the other team has the ball, but that, and then the loudest the crowd was when we had the ball on fourth down. It was like, I think the loudest the crowd got. I was like, what? I was like, quiet down, people. But anyway,
wow, this is good stuff. See, this is the stuff I miss, Matt. I love hearing this kind of stuff because I never hear this kind of stuff. I'm in the booth, so I don't hear anything like this.
Okay, yeah, it's different perspectives from all over, I'm sure. But it's disappointing. But there's a lot of parity between FCS and the bottom of D1 now. So many good players all over the place, and being able to transfer and stuff. So, and those two, it's hard to stop small running backs like those. They can be really tough for any team. So, I think they're going to have some success later in the season, Southern Utah.
We'll see. We'll see how that ends up being. I don't know. I don't know enough about FCS to tell you that Southern Utah is going to go out and be, one of the teams to watch in the FCS playoffs. But I appreciate your thoughts there, Matt, and I appreciate the phone call. When I think about all of this, Sal, I just go back to the offensive line issues. Like, you could talk all you want about how shifty, how dynamic that running back was for Southern Utah. And by the way, for Southern Utah, I mentioned this earlier, they had 268 yards on the ground. Lamston torched UTEP with 20 carries, 183 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, averaged almost 10 yards a carry for this rushing attack. Despite all of that, I just felt like their offensive line just had more push on UTEP's D-line in the second half, and that was the biggest difference right there in the trenches.
And I think it's kind of an early sign of taking advantage of that 3-3-5 style defense. You're able to be more powerful because you have bigger bodies in there. No matter how many guys you try to stack, it's not a lineman, a true lineman rather, against a true lineman. You know what I mean? It's hybrids going at it, and it's no disrespect. That's just the way that the game plan goes out. And the troubling thing when looking at Lamson's stats is his longest run was a 46-yard, right? A 46-yard gain. He still averages 9.2 yards per carry after it's all said and done. But even if you take away that near half a football field of a run, he's still averaging, a good amount there. So they didn't really need those chunk plays. And if we look at those third downs that they were able to get, a number of them came by way of their legs. So you got to give them credit, man. They just were able to pick their spots and get to it a lot quicker. We're going to have to look out for this run defense for the Miners the rest of the year, just based off of the defensive philosophy.
Yeah, that's a great point. I actually really like that point a lot, Sal. Let's keep it moving. 915-505, that's 6009. 915-505-6009. Let's move it. It's going on to Mike. Next up on the program. Mike, good evening. What's going on?
Wait, Mike?
Mike, what's going on?
Nah, brother, this is George.
George, what's happening, George? My fault. My apologies. George, how are you?
I'm great. I'm very disappointed. I stayed till the bitter end. It was a tough loss. It shouldn't have happened, but it is what it is, man. I mean, these kids, they went out and played their hearts out. I feel that the intensity kind of lagged off in the second half. I don't know. It's still up in the air for me. I mean, I think we should have done a better job defensively. Offensively, there was a lot of missed opportunities. You just can't allow an FCS team to come in and just dominate you in the second quarter. I feel the intensity was not there. It's hard coming in when you're leading at the half to keep that intensity up. But, I agree. There should have been adjustments. Those missed opportunities towards the end where we should have punched it in and we were playing really, really safe when we should have taken those opportunities down the field, and we just didn't. We just didn't perform. There's no reason why we shouldn't have won this game. There's no reason. I don't think there should have been a reason for it to be a tight game and then go into overtime. I think we could have taken care of this team. It just the intensity and like I said before, the lack of adjustments by the coaching staff really put a lot of damper in all of the play calling that was happening.
Yep, I hear you, man. I hear you. George, where do they go from here?
Well, I mean, they have to look, take a good hard look at themselves. It's not impossible to win. They came close to it. It's not impossible, but they have to chalk this up, kind of let it roll off, make it a wake-up call for Scotty, and they're just going to have to play their hearts out and just let the chips fall where they may. They got Liberty. They got Colorado State. I mean, those are tough opponents right there.
I hear you, man. George, I appreciate you, man. As always, you're the man for always tuning into the program, always supporting us here on Miner Talk. And you got an 18-year-old who's about to celebrate a birthday here right around the corner. So I'm excited for that as well. Hey, appreciate that. Let's keep it moving. Alberto, I'm going to need you to read some of these YouTube messages. I have so much going on my phone right now. My phone is absolutely blowing up. So I'm going to need you I'm going to lean on you to read some of these YouTube messages that are coming in as well. Big shout out to Inspo Lens, Chris Kolinek, helping us out here and making history with us here on Miner Talk. This is some great stuff. We've never really done this before where we've done a live stream feed, but it's great to do this, and it's great to get some more traction on different platforms here as we continue. And we welcome on our YouTube audience as well. Alberto, I'll swing it to you right after we get out to Memo, who's joining us next. 915-505-6009. We just opened up a phone line if you've been trying to get into the program and you can't because it's busy. 915-505-6009. Oh, Memo, we're talking about a heartbreaking loss here, my friend. What's going on?
I know, Adrian, Zay, Alberto, big fan of you guys, first of all. Second of all, it's just tough, man. It's tough as a fan. You've been hearing about it since last December, Scotty Walden, the whole Scotty Walden. This is a new era. We're going against an FCS school. Vegas is telling us we're 6.5 point favorites. Over under is 52.5 points, whatever. So we're that, and then we just go an edge. So it's just hard as a fan to understand, to see what's actually going on in the program, where we're going, what's the direction of this program, because it just feels like day in and day out, like as a fan, you're just getting a heartbreak and after heartbreak and after heartbreak. And as a fan, you feel like an idiot, honestly. Like, you feel dumb because every year you support these guys and you think that every year is going to be different. And I get it. But, like, you know, it's just every year is the same thing. It's the same thing every year, and it's hard and it's tough. And I'm just, like, looking at you guys to be like, somebody give me some hope. Give me something to move forward to, because it's tough, man. It's tough out here. Like, it's tough. It's tough, Adrian. It's tough, Zay. Like, what do we have? Like, what is it? Like, we were promised all these things, and then we go and lay an egg against an FCN school. Like, what's actually going on? Like, what do we have moving forward?
Oh, man. Memo, you're a mess right now, my friend. Oh, man. Wow. You know what? Sal, real quick, before we get to Alberto, because we need to read these YouTube comments. Great job.
Too, yeah.
Great job there, Memo. I appreciate you. Sal, it's nothing new. What's new about this, right?
The uniforms?
The Digicam?
Yeah.
Those last year.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I mean, this is the reality of being a UTEP Miner fan. It's a cycle, right? You get excited about all the hype. You get all hyped up. It's a big peak, and then boom, comes crashing down for whatever reason. Whatever brings you down is going to bring you crashing down. And that is that reality of sometimes, if you are a UTEP fan, like Memo just called in saying, it's the dread that you face. As far as hopelessness, I'm not there yet. I believe in this program, this coaching staff. I believe in the future of this kind of build with this program. So I'm bought into the future, knowing that the short term is something that UTEP fans are going to have to either stomach now, accept now, and then hope for later, because that's in my reality, Sal, when I was evaluating this program and this team this year here in 2024, I was thinking in my head, this is not for this year, not for 2024. This is for the future.
Yeah, and that's what the process usually is, right? For a team that's in the G5 or G6, I don't know. There's new numbers nowadays, but basically, if you're a non-power school, right, the leash is a little bit longer. The preparation time to be a contender for your conference is a little bit longer as well. So it's hard to really cash it all in right now, but it's not hard emotionally at the moment to completely cash out.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm not out. I'm not out on the season yet. I'm not out on the coaching staff. I'm still, I'm bought into at least the philosophy of what their hopes are for the coming years. So that's where I'm at right now. And I appreciate the phone call. We got Milkman coming up next. We've got Enrique who wants to join us as well. And then we've got Sebastian Perez Navarro who's going to join us also. Alberto, before we get to everybody, let's hear some YouTube comments. You go right ahead.
Okay, so there's been like back and forth amongst three people on the YouTube comments. Shout out to them for tuning in through YouTube. So Eric Bauer starts things off. He says, the biggest concern for me is how our O-line was dominated. I think this will be a big test for Coach Walden and his staff. Play calling needs to be adjusted to help the line out when that is happening. And then ChronoLink responds, Scotty Walden is just a hype man. That's it. How the heck do you run the ball when the time is running out at the last drive? Southern Utah shot themselves in the foot, and we couldn't take advantage. And to that, PRS Manny says, for those saying UTEP should have gone for it, I get the call. It's safe. It's your kicker. You want to build him up. Let him know you believe in him. But WTF. And to that, ChronoLink responds, Walden is like Temco Bowl on Ness. He only has 4 plays. QB keeper, running back run up the middle to nowhere, random pass, and a long throw. That's it. That's all I saw in the stadium today. PRS Manny responds, I'm not saying that I would have made it or you too, but I'm saying the best high school kicker in El Paso would have made that. This is D1 football, and you do that twice. And to that, Eric Bauer01 responds, yeah, it's unacceptable for a kicker who's on a scholarship to produce those last 2 kicks that he did. If you cannot even trust your kicker to make a chip shot, then that significantly hurts your team. And then Chronolink calls us, well, it's the Austin P Miners. Technically, we are an FCS team now.
Good stuff on Twitter. Yeah, I agree with you there, Sal. You just said not wrong. As far as Buzz Flabiano, let's just go through the stats super quickly. He made a 43-yarder, guys. Did we forget about that? He made one today, 43-yarders, 43 yards out. That was in the second quarter right before halftime. By the way, the Miners should have scored on that drive. Let me just say it right there. They should have scored another touchdown on that drive in the second quarter. I think that was a missed opportunity right there. Fourth quarter, he misses a 26-yarder. And then in overtime, he misses a 32-yarder. Those you got to make, Sal. You got to make those 2.
We also are forgetting the one that was negated.
Yeah,
because of the
he
encroachment.
missed that one too.
You know, that's 2 missed field goals,
and that was a chip shot.
To kind of close things out. So that's a bad look. I get it though. He was, I think, 7 for 7, or he made 7 out of his last 7 attempts. But all good things come to an end. But there is one thing that didn't come to an end tonight, and that's the Miners' home losing streak. What is it, 6 in a row now, dating back to last year? So, man, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Liberty can't come soon enough. But speaking of Liberty, they beat New Mexico State. They went ahead and came back. 30-24 was the final, just down the road from us in Las Cruces. So, that's what you want. You want a chance to compete with the league's contenders or be one yourself, and that's exactly what took place in Las Cruces. And it's their second year in Conference USA.
Alfonso Frias, MinerTalk. Is there a betting website where you could bet the over-under for penalties? Take the over next week and we'll be rich. Victor Neff. Losers no matter who the Miner coach is. Ugh. And Victor Neff follows it up. The announcer said UTEP crowd was in shock the way it ended. Why? They know we suck. This is coming from Pick My Axe 915. Walden hype train is derailed. Awful stuff. A mediocre FCS team came into the Sun Bowl and won. Steven Wrestler, I'm all for giving a coach 3 full years to prove their worth, but this sucked and it was atrocious and embarrassing. El Chingon. Same old UTEP. They will always find a way to embarrass themselves, and every year losing to a lower division team makes it look even worse. This team sucks. Ugh, man. Fans are really, really disappointed right now. Again, I'm going to say this again. I said it once and I'll say it again. Season's not over. It's not doom and gloom just yet. It's only game number 2, but this is a nightmarish start. This is a nightmarish start to a season that had so much hype. I don't know about promise. I think saying promise and hype are 2 different things, but so much hype and excitement, yet they fall flat right here against an FCS team at home. Next up is Milkman, 915-505-6009. Full lines here on MinerTalk. We're going to pull a late one here tonight. And stand by, Alberto. I'll give you our legal ID here in just a bit. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to MinerTalk, brought to you by Jack in the Box here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
Streaming worldwide through the 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app. 600 ESPN El Paso is KROD El Paso, a Town Square media station.
Back to the phones. Milkman is next. Milkman, good evening, man. What's happening?
Hey. Okay, so yeah, I got some thoughts, but before I get to anything about football, I got to get this off my chest. What was going on with the concessions? Holy cow. I don't know if, I guess there was some kind of fundraiser or something, because when I finally got up to the front of the line, it looked like it was like Hank's cheerleaders or something like that. But we went to get our concessions at the start of halftime and got back to our seats with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. It absolutely unacceptable. I was like, what is going on? We went 15 feet. And when I finally got up, I guess we chose the slowest line, because when I finally got up to the front, it was kids waiting on us. And I'm like, are we kidding here? Like, what's going on? Like, there's a football game going on. Anyway, they got to fix that. That's ridiculous. We spent way too long in the concession line.
I appreciate you telling us that one, Milkman. I appreciate it, because we don't hear things like this. So thank you, and we'll hear if anybody else had similar problems.
Okay. All right. So now, I guess I should say I'm not, you're right. It's not doom and gloom because it's his first year. He's got to kind of start from scratch. But I got to tell you, I was fighting this feeling that I had earlier on in the year when I was like, oh, this guy transferred from Austin Peay. Okay. Oh, that guy transferred from Austin Peay. That guy transferred from Austin Peay too. Okay. All right. I'm like, so apparently we have Austin Peay playing for us. And, I was like, you know what? I guess he knows what he's doing, but this is FBS, not FCS. But I was like, okay, I guess he knows what he's doing. But tonight it looked like, an FCS school out there because they got beat by an FCS school. That's unacceptable. It really is. I will say this. I listened to the post game and I heard stuff that I have never heard Dana Dimmel say. And that was, he said, this loss is on me and I apologize to the fans. And, that he used the word unacceptable, which it absolutely is. And I'm glad to hear him talk like that. And that does give me hope for the future. I know that, like I said, he's starting up, and we really can't, I was going to say we really can't hold this against him, but I mean, losing to an FCS school, it really is, that's a problem. But
he's absolutely right. Yeah, and I was taking notes on that post game interview as well, and this was also in regards to the rush by Southern Utah, saying it was unacceptable. Against Nebraska, he said there were tight sets and they were just a hat short, and they wanted a crowd. They wanted to be more physical, more hats, more numbers in the box. And he said he's going to assess film. He does credit Southern Utah, and he can take being beaten through the air, but not on the ground. And it's back-to-back weeks where we've seen them rather get beat on the ground. So no, he's spot on. Yeah, he took full responsibility for it. However, we heard this last week as well. I know it's different opponents and whatnot, but it's 2 games in and we've heard it twice.
Yeah, it's a good point. Milkman, I appreciate your phone call. We got to keep it moving. We got a bunch of phone calls to get to, but we'll continue the conversation. And like I said, we just appreciate you weighing in here on the program. 915-505-6009. We haven't really diced the quarterback talk yet. I think we'll wait. We'll wait for Zay, and we'll wait so we can all talk a little quarterback situation right now. Some say, throw Cade McConnell in. What was going on? Why didn't they flip over to him? Others said, no, Skyler earned it, and he shouldn't have been pulled the entire game. What happened to the Miners wasn't, Skyler Locklear's fault out of this one right here. So we'll talk different opinions there as we continue here on the program. 915-505-6009. Enrique is next up on the phone lines. Enrique, good evening, man. What's happening?
Hey, Adrian. Well, first off, I'm sorry if I got all scratchy. I've been yelling my heart out at the party patio.
Nice, man. Hey, no worries. Thank you. Thanks for calling, man.
I had a great opportunity and the privilege of meeting the head coach for the women's volleyball and the assistant coach for the volleyball team. So I just want to say it's really cool to see other programs supporting the UTEP football and other UTEP athletics. And we're definitely going to be going to some games for the volleyball team. But I did want to address our fans real quick, if you'd let me. We need to cut this talk out. It's a tough loss. It is a sad loss. But the thing is, we came together as a city. We need to keep coming together as a city. Unfortunately, this guy's word was what brought us together as a city, but we need to keep uniting as a city and support our Miners. This is our team. This is El Paso's team, and we need to support our team. But I am happy to see how we had a flashy start, but there was some really bad officiating, and there was a really missed call that I caught on the field where they usually horse collared and face mask a lot of these Miners on the Southern Utah's defensive side of the ball, and I think there was a lot of bad officiating as well. But I think CUSA has had that issue before. I think even last year the officiating crew missed a lot of calls that were supposed to be called in the field, like they were stomping on Miners' helmets and their hands, and I just think that needs to be thrown out to CUSA to investigate. I think maybe some bad officiating it's been on record, and
well, wait. Can I just stop you? Can I stop you super quick, Enrique? Who are we dealing with here? We're not dealing with Big 12 officials. We're not dealing with Pac-12 officials. Tonight's officiating crew was CUSA refs. When CUSA refs, they had a Twitter account for this group right here. When CUSA refs are in play, all bets are off. I mean, it's going to be a wacky kind of game. But UTEP racking up the 12 penalties that they had for 130 yards that they put together. Yeah, there were maybe some calls that were missed. But at the same time, UTEP was heavily penalized in this game. And there's no excuse to that one right there.
Oh, no. I agree with that as well. I'm not going to argue that at all. But there's one last thing I just want to get off. I'm going to confirm what the earlier caller mentioned about the car on the ramp. It was always throwing its lights when the Miners are heading down on that part of the field, and I don't know exactly how that caller said. I don't know if it impacted the players at all, but I can confirm I did also see those lights from a vehicle flashing in when the Miners are driving on that side of the ball.
Wow, that's so interesting, man. I didn't know that, and I appreciate your phone call, Enrique. Thank you so much for always tuning in and supporting us here on the program, so I appreciate you as always, man. Yeah, some tough stuff, tough news there when you're hearing that weird distractions are going on there. Alberto, did you see any of this? You were on the field at some points throughout the game. Did you see anything there?
No, I didn't see any of the lights flashing. I know that I do understand what they mean. There is a perfect angle for a car to work its way towards the entrance. Unfortunately, though, there's usually emergency vehicles there or those utility vehicles.
But they're not talking about that. They're not talking about those. They're talking about the other vehicles there.
Yeah, but the ambulances usually line up there. That's why it's definitely weird because that whole area, that whole parking lot is really policed and really patrolled. So it's curious to me to think, well, who could have been there? What car could that have been? And who was the owner that's turning the lights on at the best moments? So it's definitely a weird
again.
situation.
I don't think it was necessarily like an owner or anything. I think what they're trying to say is this was like done by UTEP as kind of a promotional type of thing. I just didn't see this, so we got to maybe ask Zay. I don't think we're on the same page here. Let's do this. Let's take a timeout right now. SPN is going to join us. Then we got Brian on the line as well. We got a ton of posts to read. We also have YouTube comments to read as well. But let's take a long overdue timeout here on the program. When we come back, more of Miner Talk presented by Jack in the Box right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
This is Mike Norwich, owner of Jack in the Box El Paso and Las Cruces. On behalf of our Jack in the Box team, we want to express our support for all local sports here in the borderland. We have an amazing and storied sports history, and we encourage you to continue to support local athletics. Swing into Jack in the Box, where 2 tacos are still the best deal in town, or enjoy one of our classic burgers, the Bacon Double Cheeseburger, or my favorite, the Texas Double Jack. Just don't forget to add the green chilies. With 15 locations, we're open 24 hours, 7 days a week. We are the perfect spot before and after every game.
Weather, uncorruptible yet mysterious. Its movement determined by the cosmos and nature as indiscriminate as it is life-giving. Here at ABC7, Doppler Dave Spielman puts his decades of experience to work, observing Mother Nature, studying her science to anticipate her track and craft the most accurate forecast you can trust for your property, your family's safety, and your peace of mind. Doppler Dave Spielman, the Borderlands chief meteorologist.
The 2024 high school football season is here. Keep an eye out for the Greater El Paso Football Showcase top 5 players, the draft watch list, and exciting announcements for all of the events this season to include the All-Star Games draft, combine, mentor program, quarterback challenge, golf tournament, and scholarship announcements. Follow the Greater El Paso Football Showcase on social media and online at 915showcase.com for updates. Senior players, don't forget, SAT, ACT scores need to be turned in before November 22nd to be eligible for the draft.
Honey, I'm leaving.
Oh, but why?
I'm absolutely melting. The AC is broken and I can't stand this El Paso heat.
Oh, don't worry. I called Ignitify for our air conditioning repairs.
Ignitify?
Yes. Ignitify is on the way to fix our AC.
For emergency air conditioning repairs, call Ignitify, 915-539-3040. With Ignitify, the difference is reliable air conditioning. The difference is we care about you, and where the difference is legendary. Visit IgnifyEP.com to get started.
River Oaks Properties was founded by local businessman Jerry Rubin. Their locations include the rapidly growing, highly trafficked Zaragoza Road and East Lake Boulevard in Far East El Paso. In addition, River Oaks has recently completed Westtown Marketplace, El Paso's newest outdoor shopping destination destination. River Oaks helps create local jobs through retailers. Want to start a business or you need the best location? River Oaks Properties has the best locations in El Paso. For more information, visit roplpaso.com. River Oaks Properties was founded by local businessman Jerry Rubin. Their locations include the rapidly growing, highly trafficked Zaragoza Road and East Lake Boulevard in Far East El Paso. In addition, River Oaks has recently completed Westtown Marketplace, El Paso's newest outdoor shopping destination. River Oaks helps create local jobs through retailers. Want to start a business or you need the best location? River Oaks Properties has the best locations in El Paso. For more information, visit roplpaso.com.
Hey, it's Joe Fortenbaugh, and you're listening to Carlin versus Joe on 600 ESPN El Paso.
All right, we're back here on Miner Talk as we continue. 915-505-6009 as we continue here on the program. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600ESPNElPaso.com. We're brought to you by Jack in the Box. By the way, the only place that's going to be open right now is Jack in the Box. Open 24/7, 365 here in El Paso and Las Cruces. 15 locations, by the way. Jack in the Box is the perfect spot before and after every game. And, hey, big shout out to Jack in the Box, who brings us here, who is our sponsor here on Miner Talk. Let's go back to the phone lines here. We'll read some comments on YouTube, and we'll go back to Twitter and X here as well. Big shout out to Chris from Inspo Lens. We are live here on YouTube, live on Twitter and X. We are live on 600 ESPN El Paso, and we've got our podcast as afterward, recapping everything as well. Back to the phone lines. Sebastian Perez Navarro joining us next. Sebastian, your thoughts on this one right here? The Miners falling in a heartbreaking fashion to Southern Utah.
Adrian, good morning, and good morning to the rest of the Miner Talk crew. Technically, we could say that, and just the initial thoughts is obviously disappointment. When going to the press conference, Scotty Walden made sure the first thing that he did was to apologize to the Miner faithful, the 40,000 that came to the Sun Bowl, because it's a disappointing loss. Frankly, say what you will about the Thunderbirds, they're an FCS team. Good schools and good universities don't lose to FCS teams. And this was Walden's chance to prove something to UTEP. Obviously, you have yesterday's comments that resurfaced on Utah. And in my personal belief, I thought it was going to be pure destruction on UTEP's end. It wasn't. It was honestly the exact opposite once we got into the second half. It looked like UTEP just wasn't in the groove. Disappointing, the best word to say it. The way I feel, the way every single member of my family in the car right now feels.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying there, Sebastian. Give me your thoughts on just the crowd tonight. What was the atmosphere like in the environment at the Sun Bowl?
It was amazing being out there on the field, being able to report for the Prospector. No fan was quiet. We had two sections of fans getting into a battle over UTEP cheers. Something that was very, I think, is going to grow in UTEP culture was they were playing Kurt Angle's WWE song. And the catchphrase is, "You suck." But instead of saying that, the UTEP Miner faithful were saying UTEP. They were making it their own song. Everyone was adrenaline pumping. Hype was the word to say it. Every person that I was able to interview, that I was able to talk to, graduates, current students, future students, they were all hopeful about what Scotty Walden would bring. There was one interview that spoke truth. We have to wait to Scotty Walden being able to diffuse into the system, being able to have more time in the system. We can't expect large results now. And even if it's disappointing, that statement holds a lot of validity. But there was a lot of hype, a lot of adrenaline, and a lot of high hopes.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Where does UTEP go from here? As you're probably going to put something together for the Prospector as a recap for this one right here. By the way, Prospector is sayer of the student newspaper out at UTEP right now. You give us your thoughts, Sebastian, on the future here for the Miners.
Well, absolutely. From here, they go on to play Liberty, the Conference CUSA champion. If you want to catch a little summary, an article should be out by the beginning of this week on theprospector.com. Check out Instagram socials, as well as a little video package to trickle in. But frankly, and Scotty Walden said it, they have to regroup. They have to check the film. But now you find the balance between checking the film, being critical, whilst also trying to keep up momentum and high adrenaline. UTEP was defeated. That was the case. They need to get out of the bad rhythm that they're in and try to go play Liberty the best that they can. It's an away game, and frankly, it's going to be a tough game. Liberty is a great school. But for me, they just need to get it together. They need to regroup and avoid the mistakes, avoid the penalties. As you said it earlier, Adrian, 12 penalties, that's unacceptable.
I hear you, man. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, Sebastian. Thank you for tuning in and calling in so late here into the wee mornings on Miner Talk. Appreciate Sebastian Perez Novato there on the program. 14 penalties tonight for UTEP, Sal. The most since 2005. That's right, 2005. That was UTEP's first year in Conference USA, writes some guy Chris. And as he writes, atrocious. I would agree with that.
And the sad part is that Southern Utah had a large number of penalties as well, but you can't even take advantage of that because they offset. You do one, they do one, it matches, but you have more than they do at the end of the day. And the attention to detail that's been discussed, or the I don't want to say bragging about it, that's not right, but the large mentioning of the attention to detail and preparation, kind of makes you feel disappointed if that was the case, because it didn't show up tonight. I know that there were some last week against Nebraska. It's in Nebraska. It's at Nebraska, however you want to put it. That's a big power school, so I can understand those, but I can't understand it when you have the clear home advantage tonight, a large number of people out there in support of you, and you basically blow all your chances away because of those penalties. So lack of blocking, lack of shedding blocks and getting to the quarterback, which they did not do a great job of when it comes to a quarterback containment.
Yes.
All of that is a recipe for disaster, and it's just a lot of undiscipline when there's been a lot of talk of attention to detail and preparation. They have to fix that up. Otherwise, it doesn't matter who they play. They're going to lose every single game if you have another game like you did today.
If you're starting a new program and building something new, I understand getting, the false start penalties at times. I get it, but the ones that I hate are the roughing the passer, the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, all of those, the penalties that are all the unsportsmanlike conducts. There were 4 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties among those right there, and for the Miners, totaling 14 penalties, 122 yards here as it wraps up here tonight. Southern Utah defeats UTEP 27-24 in overtime. We're continuing on Miner Talk, 915-505-6009. If you're listening to us and you've been wanting to chime in, but you can't get into the program because we are busy, chime in now, 915-505-6009. We've been able to clear some phone lines, and we could definitely take your call right now if you've got some thoughts on this game. We'll also go to our YouTube comments here in just a moment, but before we do that, let's go to Brian. He is next up on the phone lines. Brian, good evening. What's going on?
What's up, Adrian? I just got back from my homecoming dance, and seeing the UTEP game was very disappointing on ESPN Plus.
Oh, yes, it is. You said you got done with your homecoming dance? What are we talking about here, Brian? Tell me a little bit more about this UTEP game and less about the homecoming dance.
I'm sorry, bro. I just had to mention it because it was very important to the context of it and all that.
All right. So you're at homecoming. I guess you're in high school, obviously, and you're watching the UTEP. You're a senior, and you're watching the UTEP game on ESPN Plus. Give me your thoughts, because your night must have been ruined. And if it wasn't your date, not necessarily at homecoming ruining the night, it was UTEP ruining the night for you.
Oh, you bet it was UTEP ruining the night, because I'm a special teams nerd, and seeing the punching and kicking situation infuriated me.
Okay, why?
For starters, we'll start off with Bus Labiano. Even though he didn't make that 43-yard field goal earlier in the game, the wide left attempts at the end of the game really pissed me off. Southern Utah did shoot themselves in the foot there, but it ended up not mattering because Bus Labiano was sold. And this was on scholarship after all.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Any other thoughts before we let you go, my friend?
It's just we really need to be careful. I think this is maybe a wake-up call to do better at Liberty, but I just really hope that Walden isn't a guy that isn't just all the hype, because if he is, we're just going to end up like 2018 UTEP all over again.
Okay, man, I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. Brian here on the phone lines as we continue. Had some interesting calls here tonight, but I appreciate everybody chiming in. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. Whew, we got some time to breathe, guys. All right, we burned through a lot of calls. Now we've got to burn through a lot of comments that have come in on Twitter and X and on YouTube. Sal, you want to start us off here on some of the YouTube comments that you're seeing come your way that we haven't read so far?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where Alberto left off, but let's see here. Okay, I know where we left off. It was the Austin P. Miner comment. So going after that, Raul Marioni Jr. says, bruh, this coaching staff sucked. No adjustments, no discipline. This sucks. Chronolink says, but hey, we have kick-ass locker rooms. Hype. That's a good one.
I like it.
He also does another one right after that. I'm cashing out after what I saw today. There's no way we can win more than 2 games this year. Ooh, what do you think?
Oh,
did you guys do a run through already?
No, we haven't.
My
we're
gosh. Waiting for Zay,
yeah. You were waiting on Zay to do a little bit of a roadmap to where this could go if this goes sour or goes, wrong. But I'll just say this. The next 2 games, if you're a UTEP fan, temper your expectations. Sal, it's Liberty on the road next week, and then it's Colorado State on the road. You're not going to find out who this UTEP team is until October 3rd. That's a Thursday night game, and that's against Sam Houston. And if everybody writes off UTEP in the next 2 weeks against Liberty and Colorado State, I find that unfair. I feel like, what you saw tonight, write them off or think of them differently, sure, go ahead. But next week and the week after, your expectations should be low when it comes to those 2 games.
I understand that, but it's a lot harder to accept more patience, so to speak, when you could have had a good result today or a good sample size.
Good point.
And say, hey, we got to wait more, because by that theory, hey, let's say they do take on Sam Houston State and they lose that one. Okay, then then when can the accurate type of prediction, I guess, if you want to put it that way, be given? So it's very disappointing in that regard. I can understand if somebody's checking out. I'm not out yet, but I wouldn't argue with somebody who is out, because this loss today is unacceptable, man. The biggest game, in my opinion, of Coach Walden's career. We talked about this on the pregame that we had on Spaces earlier. This was definitely a must-win, and they didn't do it.
They didn't do it at all. No, you're exactly right. Alberto, your thoughts. You just chime in. You've heard a lot of calls come in on all this right here. Your thoughts on everything that people are talking about right now.
Well, yeah, I feel the same disappointment in the team. It was a horrible outing, and it just kind of gave you flashbacks to things that you didn't want to get flashbacks anymore. It's just a game of 2 halves. I think that the Miners came out firing, and everything that they did on offense that worked for them, they immediately abandoned or didn't do again, and then they stopped scoring points. They scored essentially all their points in the first half of this game, and so to me that's really indicative of what happened is you stop doing the things that were successful for you, and you go dry. You can't score any more points. And then on the other side is they're just running the ball down your neck, and you can't stop them. You can't stop them. They're marching on you, and you can't stop them. And that's what was disappointing. I'm glad it was a close game. It could have gone the other way. But, it's understandably I understand the frustration from the fans, and we highlighted the importance of the Southern Utah game, and now just kind of moving forward, it's difficult to say, well, they'll for sure beat this team or they'll for sure beat that team when you have a loss like this at home.
No game is going to be a guarantee moving forward, right? I mean, now all bets are off for UTEP moving forward as far as counting on them to have a win, in a certain week or a certain game. They've got to prove it to fans. They've got to show fans that they're really going to be committed to turning things around here early on in the season, and that's the key word, early. This is the second game of the season. I'm not sounding the panic alarm for this whole regime and this whole program. This is just a nightmarish start. I mean, you find yourself in a similar predicament that you did in the Dana Dimmel era, and that is losing at home in your home opener to an FCS opponent, and that's what happened tonight against Southern Utah. Going over to Twitter and X, a lot of posts coming in. Let's check over there. Herman Flores. What an embarrassing disaster for Walden's first home game versus an FCS team. I gave him the benefit of the doubt at Nebraska, but so far he's all talk, no results. Different coach, same bleep. as Dimmel. This is coming in from Mandy's 25. UTEP needs a new kicker. Those last 2 kicks were nonsense. And you guys can chime in whenever you'd like. This is coming in from Gabriel Martinez. I appreciate the drive to tie after losing all the momentum gained in the first half, but what the heck was up with those field goal attempts in overtime? This is coming in from Matthew Castro. How do you let FCS Southern Utah disrespect our city, trash our program, come into the Sun Bowl, and beat us like that? Embarrassing.
Yeah, remember last year when they took on Liberty and they had the mariachis in the locker room? People were so deflated. There's no way they could let that happen again. They didn't even have to wait a full year for that. That's terrible, man. This when he came in and his team ran all down your throat. It's not a good look right now.
Oh, man. That's tough. That's a tough reality. Gut check there, Sal. But you're right.
You think their coach is going home on the plane right now saying, I knew they didn't have it? That's probably what he's saying on the way home right now. He's like, told you guys they didn't have it.
He's like, what's the phone number for MinerTalk?
Yeah, he's like, let me call in and give him a piece of my mind.
I think he's at the Escalante Beach right now, kind of just posted up, listening to this and cracking a cold one.
Maybe he's celebrating Juarez. He should. He should and enjoy it. Come on, man. We love our sister city, Juarez. Come on. Eric, Ebout. He almost kicked it toward the stands because that's where he should be sitting during the game, talking about the kicker. Oh, man. This is coming in from Jay Barrios, the Humble King 17. I'm without a doubt a diehard UTEP fan, but when Scotty Walden asked El Paso to pack the Sun Bowl, we did. All for them to not hold up their end of the deal? Embarrassing for this program. Just absolutely painful loss tonight. Ugh, man. 915-505-6009 as we continue. Matthew Castro. We learned that transferring a bunch of FCS players into an FBS program doesn't make you FBS caliber player. We're an FCS team, unfortunately. This is King Eric. This is unacceptable. I don't care who it is. You can't go into halftime with the lead and take your foot off the gas. I understand this is Walden's first year, but you had to win this game. That's coming in from King Eric. Back to the phones we go. It is Larry who's joining us next, 915-505-6009. If you're trying to get into the program, now is the time to do it. Larry, good evening, man. What's happening?
What's up, fellas? I hear all these tweets, all these, phone calls like myself. Again, I'll call myself a hardcore Miner fan. We're going to be, we're going to go to a game regardless of the Miners finish 0-12. Like you said it, you couldn't say it better than anyone else, Adrian. The fair weather fans, those are the fans that we lost tonight. Over 40,000. John, I hear John on his broadcast saying that's the biggest group of 5 attendance in the first 2 weeks of college football. I mean, just outstanding from the fans. We will not see over 20,000 fans the rest of the year. I mean, that's just the reality. You can have, as many fit fan posts, Coach Walden does a great job, pumping up the fan base. That can only go so far. You got to win these games. You got to win FCS games. I'm going to date myself here. I'm thinking back to the Scooby-Doo cartoons where, the villain takes off his mask. I really felt like I saw Coach Dimmel there roaming the sidelines. I mean, it was a lackluster mine shaft. I'll shout out Zay here. You got the mine shaft going down. You got the cheerleaders on your left. You got the band on your right. You don't got no fan interaction, guys. I mean, you got to have that when you're pumping up the mine shaft, pumping out the contact with Miner Vision. And then you just have it like that. Sick to my stomach.
Oh, man, Larry. Oh, you made us crack up over here. You gave us a good laugh. Where do they go from here, Larry, in your opinion?
I mean, they're gonna start 0-4. That's a given. I mean, everyone's expecting that. The Fairweather fans are going to see what? They haven't won a game yet? There's no way we're going to spend our $20 to come to game. There's no way we're going to come to a weekday game, even less. So I think what has to happen here, fellas, you gotta steal one on the road. You gotta take one. I'm looking at Colorado State. Maybe that's the game you're looking towards. Liberty did struggle with New Mexico State, but they're going to be at home. I think, I was predicting 4 wins at the start of the year. If they manage to win somehow 3, I'll take that.
Okay, I got you, man. Hey, I appreciate the phone call, Larry. Thanks for weighing in on the program and supporting our program here, as always. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. Reality check, but probably the right move there, Sal, as far as what he was saying. And, you got to give it to the city of El Paso, man. Yeah. It was like the bear was poked. You're wearing a Smokey the Bear hat. It was like the bear was poked, as far as the fan base after the comments for Delane Fitzgerald, after all the antics that happened prior to everything. It felt like the fans were provoked in a way, and they showed up. They delivered 41,609 fans. You don't take those crowds for granted. You don't.
You can't. And it's an extremely fair weather fan base, and you got to win those games if you want to build those quote unquote diehards. Why do you think people are diehards? Because they experience some greatness at some point, and if you're a lucky fan of like Alabama or Michigan, whatever, those big names, Texas Longhorns, you've seen those big days and you cling on to it, or you know that you can be near that type of expectation. But if you're UTEP, best thing that keeps me abroad is the Mike Price days.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So I'm one of those diehards, but I understand now why not a lot of people go to these games. If you want to get more diehards, you got to win more games. You got to give these people something to believe in. The third time in a row that they've done it in the last 3 or 4 years. Last year there was really nothing to go off of, so you could kind of write that one out. But the last 2 big crowds before tonight, UTEP just did not deliver at all, and it's disappointing. They were looking forward to a team that was going to respond and run the score up. That did not happen, obviously, but it's also a team that's Southern Utah. You know what I mean? I didn't know who this team was before this game, and that kind of puts it into perspective. Like, man, it's so bad that they lost to a Southern Utah team. Sure, they may be FCS good, but you're an FBS team. That's not acceptable at all.
Yeah, I got you, man. I totally got you. Hey, our telephone number, 915-505-6009, 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X. We're also being streamed live via Inspo Lens on YouTube. And by the way, a big shout out to Inspo Lens. Check them out online, InspoLens.com. Chris Kolinek does a great job. Positive stories, positive action for good, all on Inspo Lens. You could watch people's stories. You can gain inspiration and learn about the world around us. You could subscribe to watch all the content on their website, InspoLens.com. Chris came to us asking and bringing us a great and fantastic idea, said, hey, what about adding a little unique component to MinerTalk, a little streaming component? And I was thinking to myself, that's a brilliant idea. That's a great idea there, Chris. So we appreciate all the work that he's done and put together. We got some great, traction on YouTube here so far, and people get a chance to watch us here and see us react to these calls in real time. They get to see me like smack my head and wonder why are these callers saying what they're saying here sometimes, Sal. But we appreciate all our callers and all our mentions on all our social platforms, man.
You know what? We have so much fun doing the radio broadcast. But unfortunately, before Chris got here, a lot of that fun the people didn't really get to witness because it was visual. It wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't audio. But now people could kind of see the live reaction that we have. So we like to listen to what people got to say. But of course, we're gonna have our nonverbal response, so to speak.
There you go.
A couple things too, Adrian, really quickly on the Miners' next 2 opponents. Liberty had no trouble with Campbell, who's their inferior opponent, so to speak.
FCS.
FCS. And something I do want to mention is there's so many teams on the Atlantic coast, and I don't mean specifically the ACC. Campbell's one of them. They'll take on East Carolina. Then they'll take on App State. Later on in the year, they're going to take on UMass at UMass. So just something fun I wanted to throw out there. So that's one. But another thing, too, Adrian, is Colorado State. They're 1-1. They defeated their FCS opponent, UNC Greeley, 38-17 tonight. But they got Colorado at home next week. It's possible that UTEP could be taking on a very pissed-off Colorado State football team based off of a close loss, or they could be riding the high off of a win and, kind of kind of going into the game against UTEP like we just beat Colorado, who's this UTEP team. So these next 2 games are not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I think just like our previous caller Larry said, I mean 0-4 is pretty much, you could almost put it in pen right now for UTEP football. Now I'm really just looking at that October 3rd game and seeing how they come out against Sam Houston. I think that's a really big one right there. Before we get to Bobby, a couple more posts to mention here on Twitter and X. Manny David, I was there tonight. I got my season tickets. Not expecting much as far as wins this season. Sucks that we lost, but what a finish to tie the game and go to overtime. I'm still on board with the Walden Express. Maybe I wore the wrong color jersey tonight. Next time, white. Hashtag Go Miners. This is coming in from Eric. I don't know what his kick looks like in practice, but wow, those 2 attempts were bad. Looked like one of those halftime shows where they get a random fan to attempt to kick a field goal. That's terrible.
We should start doing that. We should start having like a field goal kicking competition.
Invite high school kickers to
Anybody.
join. Okay, I like it. Edge, Texas, at Show on Turf, blew a 17-6 lead. Then they gave you a second chance with the offside call and still lose. SMH. Ironically, I said go for 2 at the end of regulation because that after that easy missed field goal before, I wouldn't have trusted that kicker. That's interesting. Would you have gone for 2, Sal? Any thought that Scotty Walden would have gone for 2 after they went on that Philly special, the Jaden Smith to Skylar Locklear touchdown to tie things up 24, all instead of tying it up at 24-23? Would you live and die by a 2-point conversion?
You live and die by it if your mantra is fast, fearless, and physical.
So you're saying
where
that
was
you're
the
upset?
fearless?
You're upset.
Yeah, you go for the win. You live and die by your aggression. Last week, we heard Coach Walden say, I don't care if my guys get PI, be aggressive. Is the defense the only part that's supposed to be aggressive? Very, very solid play to score the touchdown. And there's something I do want to touch on because I don't want it to seem like I'm totally ragging on Walden, but he did mention this. The last play in regulation, he said it's called OFS, Old Faithful script, at the Old Faithful script. He says those are the trick plays, unique situations, something that he practiced, by the way, for context. He said that they practiced OFS, trick plays, unique situations. He credits the execution in a dire moment. Credited Smith, how he lured in, and Skylar went out, and they were obviously able to score, but I don't understand where the fearless was. I think you go for the win right there because Southern Utah, the way that they were running, it's only 25 yards that they got to get. You go for it. You live and die by it. That's just me. I get that there's different philosophies, but after me saying all that, hindsight is always 20/20.
Yeah, I feel like if they had gone for it, then we would be talking right now. Why were they even in that predicament to begin with? And I think that's also a narrative and storyline to talk about as well. But oh well, I guess it kind of is what it is as far as this finale here for this UTEP team, right?
I get why they went for the PAT. I just don't agree with it. It would have gone the other way, but different strokes for different folks.
I like it. Okay, other mentions to go to. This is Steve on Wrestler. I'm really mad. This was atrocious. I won't blame the kicker at all because a couple players really sucked. The kicker needs to make that, but look at all their flags. Just a horrible offense and defense when it mattered and doomed them. They had a good crowd too. Hashtag MinerTalk. Tristan Pence. Oh man. This is coming in from him. Shout out to Tristan Pence. He must be upset right now. This is his post. Skylar had a hell of a ball game. Several Miners gave it their all, but the O-line was awful. D-line wasn't much better. Miner fans showed up and did their job. UTEP football and Coach Walden did not. Losing to a D2 or an FCS is never acceptable, and El Paso deserves better. Hashtag MinerTalk. Good stuff there, Tristan. Back to the phone lines we go. Oh, quick shout out to Alex Nicolas, who said that Sergio guy is a plant from inside the Durham Center. Jim Rome style run on MinerTalk. Well done, Adrian.
Minergate.
Yeah, sorry. we're not doing that one right there, my friend. Back to the phones we go, 915-505-6009. But it is great to hear from Alex Nicolas, our good pal. Bobby is next on the phone lines. Bobby, good evening. What's going on?
Good evening to you guys, man. No, enjoying the show. You guys are doing a great job. I listened to Tice too long and forgot that you guys moved over. But
you forgot we exist, Bobby. You forgot we exist.
I never, of course not. I even wore my Win the West shirt underneath my jersey.
Let's go. Good stuff, Bobby.
Oh, my
Get ready
goodness.
for guillotine tomorrow, my friend.
I am. You too, man. But, I heard one person mention it on something that was sent in, but the running the ball on third down at the goal line was the worst call I think I've seen in UTEP history, or since I've been a fan. If they get stopped there, if they don't get bailed out by the horse collar tackle, the game's over. And
over. 10-second runoff. Over.
Exactly. And you have two plays if you pass it. And then to run the ball there, that was the most goofy, idiotic play I've ever seen at UTEP. And I'm just dumbfounded. And if you've gone over it 100 times, I apologize for not catching you early. But the other thing is, I think the uniforms tonight, while they're trying to be cool, were absolutely horrible. Fatigue and orange, they look like the same team. And then in more ways than one, they look like mirror images of each other, with UTEP being a D1 school and should have been bigger and stronger in controlling, a great recruiting class that we had. How many of them were offensive linemen? Evidently none. And just for them doing that is just absolutely horrible. A kicker can miss kicks. I mean, I get it. I mean, that happens more to UTEP than anybody else. But, I can see that. But to make that run on third down was just the stupidest call I've ever seen in UTEP. Worse than David Lee's wraparound draw. And you can ask people about that, Adrian.
My pops has told me that a lot about those right there. So I'm very familiar with that era and how inefficient those offenses were. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah,
and
man.
I know you want to go home, so I'll hang up.
No, we're not trying. We're in it for the long haul, my friend. Alberto's working the overnight tonight, so he's got the hammock ready to go. Chris is burning the midnight oil with us as well and experiencing a late night Miner Talk with us. Sal, business as usual for a first night home opener, right?
Oh man, this is Diamond Head Classic style Miner Talk.
That's true. Only the people who remember that series or that invitational know what we're talking about. But yeah, you're exactly right. How about this one, Sal? You're going to like this one. This is from Ethan Cancel. On one hand, I'm devastated for Wilton Luigi Buzz Flabiano Jr., but on the other hand, UTEP deserves to lose for wearing some of the absolute ugliest uniforms in football history. Your thoughts?
Oh man, I'll be honest. I think these. I think
you
this
like
combo.
These secretly.
No, I wouldn't say secretly. I'll give you like a 1 to 10. I'm probably like a 5, 4.5, 5, I guess. No, let's round it up. I can't do that. 5. 4.5 is 5 if you round it. So, I'm not completely out, but I just didn't like the way that, both teams kind of blended in with each other when there was a lot of white out there. Just to kind of nitpick on it, I understand what they were trying to do. So credit to the first responders.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
the military, and what they were doing it for. But just
thank you for cleaning that up.
I would have liked, maybe a blue trim. I love the orange UTEP font with the blue trim. That's incredible because it's usually inversed when they wear the orange helmets and and whatnot. But I like this style better than what they had last year.
I think so. The flag was awful last year. I really didn't like last year. I don't like this year's either. But
it's just
I couldn't see any of the numbers.
It was a lot of the same. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of when the basketball team does their gray Mineros jerseys a bit. I can't be a fan of that, man. I don't know why. It's just gray and orange should not go together.
Oh
ever.
Man. I got a couple of really bad tweets to read to you, but before I do that, Alberto, that third down play had you going a little crazy there.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. You're not running the ball particularly well towards the end of the game there. You need to score. That's what to me was really frustrating when all this was happening. Is like you look down on the field, the team is not winning. They need to score. And you don't see any sense of urgency to put the ball in the end zone. That's what's really frustrating to me. And that run is really exemplary of that. It's you need to get that ball in the end zone desperately, and you decide to run the ball, something that you're not doing successfully. I'm going to read off a couple of stats here from first half to the second half to kind of just show you what that Southern Utah team did to UTEP and what UTEP wasn't able to readjust to. In the first half, Southern Utah had 16 rushing attempts for 37 yards. In the second half, Southern Utah had 31 rushing attempts for 231 yards.
Wow, that's staggering. That's a staggering difference right there. They controlled it. I wonder what they noticed at halftime to make that adjustment, but credit to the Southern Utah coaching staff. The halftime adjustments they made won them the game. I mean, bottom line, it won them the game in this one. So, yeah, there you go. That's the bottom line. MinerTalk continues. We are still going, presented by Jack in the Box. Guys, is Zay okay? I mean, he was looking.
He's in shambles.
He's in shambles. For all the reasons. This is birthday week for Zay. He told me, hey, I'm darting over right after the press conference. We might not get Zay. It might be an absent Zay tonight. He might not be able to take it right here. How many losses can a 18-year-old or soon-to-be 18-year-old take?
I'm remembering the article that he had where it was there aren't many kids my age who care about UTEP athletics. And now he's not a kid no more, man. It's transitioned into adulthood. Welcome to UTEP fandom after your 17 years of living. I guess I don't know how you want to put it.
Only 50 days now. Today, September 8th. Only 50 days until UTEP basketball. There you go, Sal.
Wow.
There you go.
Dang.
Some UTEP basketball on the way. 915-505-6009. A couple more posts to get to here on the program. Clearwater, at Clearwater Win, checks into the program. Head coach finalist Brennan Marion and the UNLV offense hung 72 points on Southern Utah rival, Utah Tech. Yeah, after putting a whooping on Houston. We could have had that guy. I don't want to hear a thing from Walden until he wins a game. If that's Tennessee Martin next September, so be it. Adrian at Enemy Win 3. Wow, I'm surprised how negative everyone is right now. We are talking about a new coach in a new league, and they lost by a field goal in overtime. Pump the brakes, guys. Adrian, it was an FCS team. It was you can't lose. That's the inexcusable one. This is coming in from Bumps at Bumps 8. At UTEP football, new coach, same old story, 41,000 in attendance. El Paso came to support, and Coach Walden and UTEP football did not deliver. This is coming in from the text Truth. I'm a UTEP diehard. FCS loss is not good. I feel for the players. Coaches need to make changes. Coaches need to do some soul searching as well. This is coming in from Enrique. Take my comment with a grain of salt. Are our Austin P players having difficulty adapting to FBS play? Today had some bad officiating. This is coming in from Memo. I stomached it 10 years ago. I'll stomach it this year, and I'll continue to stomach it, I guess. That's where we're at, unfortunately. Kicker kicks it in the end, and then what? We beat an FCS school in overtime? How does that win taste? Just sad overall. Yeah, that's a good point, too. What are we talking about, guys? A win in this one, and then what? Everybody's thrilled about a last-second win against an FCS school? You're damned if you do, damned if you don't in this situation that UTEP was in.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. However, beating a FCS team is much better than losing to a FCS team. I think if you ask everybody, hey, would you rather have won this game or would you rather have lost to it? Obviously, they're going to pick the win, and it just makes it that much more painful. Yeah, you're not going to get everybody on board no matter what you do. Hey, you only won by 3 points. Oh, it shouldn't have been that close. Why'd you barely win by 10 after scoring the late touchdown? Whatever. We've heard it all, and we've seen it as well. We get that. But that doesn't matter. You still got to go out there and beat an FCS team.
That's right. That's the bottom line. And we'll hold them to that standard right there. I don't care what kind of team is trotted out there.
Also, too, if you're an FBS team who's near the bottom, is it wrong to ask for a win over an FCS team?
No, not
you know
at all.
What I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Sal. More coming in. Esteban, which team could the Miners possibly beat down the road? Okay. I'm going to say FIU at home. That's October 16th. That's a Wednesday game. That's a home game. I'm going to say Kennesaw State, and I'm going to also say Middle Tennessee. So those are the three, I should say, that I think UTEP can realistically win, and all three of those are home games. Guys, I don't know if I can see this team, at least as it stands right now, winning one of the road games against either Liberty, Colorado State, Western Kentucky, La Tech, Tennessee, or New Mexico State. Sorry to say. That's just the reality.
Yeah, Western is always a tough place. They do a great job over there in Bowling Green, and that's a team that year in and year out has a contender or is kind of knocking on the door to be a contender. At the Joe, it's very tough. They've played Louisiana Tech close, but the odds are in Louisiana Tech's favor over in Ruston, and obviously looking at Tennessee, I think we could kind of scratch that one out. But New Mexico State went wire to wire in a Conference USA Championship rematch tonight against the Liberty team, who obviously came back and won. So, yeah, it's tough, man. And looking at the home games, oh, man, yeah, pretty much just Sam Houston and Kennesaw State. But those are coin flips. I don't feel as confident about those games as I did when we were doing our preseason Miner Talk podcast.
Okay, Sal, I'm gonna throw a question that came your way, and it's from Chief Instigator El Paso Visuals Deportivos, aka Ivan Pierre Aguirre, who is out at the game tonight. Here we go. Some people saying that they're cashing out after the loss tonight. Well, to them, I say bleep them. Let them, quote, cash out. They aren't fans, true fans, if they are saying that after the first home game. Also, quote, you wouldn't argue with those that are checking out, Sal, question mark. How are... Okay, this is funny, Sal. Sorry. I'm just going to read this, but you got to answer this. How are you going to produce a UTEP fight song, Sal, and say you wouldn't argue with those fans that are checking out after the first game, Sal? SMH. And he said Sal 3 times, by the way.
Yeah, I know. There's a couple, let's say 3 things, right? So number 1, how am I not going to argue? It's El Paso Visuals Deportivos. You have so much videographic and photographic evidence of them losing these games. So no, I'm not going to argue with them. What the hell are you talking about? And how am I going to produce a fight song when I was 14? Has it changed since then? My man, it's not the same. It was a flash in the pan under Mike Price.
It's true.
The evidence is there.
I mean, honestly, hey, there we go. I like it.
Yeah, come on, bro.
I like it. No, and Sal, I think the thing is like we understand that the diehards are always going to be there. The diehards are calling in.
I'm one of them, bro.
Yeah, we're the ones who are staying here through everything. So we get it. The diehards are going to be. We're not talking to the diehards. It's the people and the fans who are on the fence. Maybe not even football fans. Maybe not even sports fans. And for people to just say, "Oh, you got to blindly support and blindly root for these programs." The entertainment dollars, Sal, I could stay here and watch ESPN2 and root for a team virtually or on my couch in college football and just associate myself with them. Why do I need to go and support this team right here? Well, UTEP has the family ties. It has the history and tradition, but it doesn't have the success of the program. So if you're like a fair weather fan, if you're a teetering fan, if you're a fan who doesn't really care about a lot of this stuff, and you go to a game like this and they lose, then you're gonna be out. I mean, that's just how it is. And we're not even talking to those fans right here on Miner Talk. They're not listening. They're already checked out.
I think people get reality mixed up with fandom. Because there's always that saying, like, I only want, my ride or dies with me, the real ones who are there since day one. Well, you got to get more of them on your side when it comes to sports. In your inner circle, I get that. But when it comes to the Sun Bowl, you got to get as many people as you can out there, even if it's their first game. How many people went to their first UTEP game tonight who are not going to want to go back? You know what I mean? So we understand. We're not talking about the, 4,500, maybe 5,500 diehards who go out there every single game. We're talking about the people who are going to add more numbers in the positive side when it comes to that decibel meter for crowd noise, when it comes to passion and stuff. So that's what it's all about, man. Who cares about all of that other stuff? You had a chance tonight, and you didn't come through.
Hey, our telephone number, 915-505-6009. We're presented by Jack in the Box. We're going to pause 10 seconds for station identification. We got more posts coming in on Twitter and X. We have more coming in on the program. But let's do this. Let's take let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to Miner Talk, brought to you by Jack in the Box here on 600 ESPN El Paso.
Streaming worldwide through the 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app. 600 ESPN El Paso is KROD El Paso, a Town Square media station.
Back to the phones we go, 915-505-6009, as we continue 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter and X, and 600 ESPNElPaso.com. Richard from the east side. I think this is Gator Richard who's joining us right now. Go Gators. Are you actually serious? Is this Gator Richard right here? This might actually be him. Let's do it. 915-505-6009. Gator Richard, we're getting you at 1 in the morning on Miner Talk. What's wrong?
Yeah, go figure. Hey, I was moving the car from the driveway inside the gate, and my radio comes on, and it's your voice. I'm like, you guys must be like fillet of fish this loss here.
Oh,
okay.
My gosh.
So let me ask you a question. So you remember John Boy take like 5 minutes, say goodnight to everybody? You remember that guy?
Yes.
Okay. So John Boy worked out, let's say, twice a day for 5 years, working out like a fiend, and then got a flat top. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Okay. Just keep it going. Keep it going.
But
I have no clue who you're talking about, but keep it going.
So forevermore, he'll be known as John Boy with the flat top. You couldn't get it done against a double A school, huh?
No, he couldn't, Gator Richard.
Okay. So I don't know about this, Adrian, but let me ask you a question, man. You were married recently, right? You still on the honeymoon?
Okay, I don't like where we're going with this one. Let's not go this. No, because I know where you're going with this one, and I don't like it. Can you get to your point?
You're not still like on a honeymoon, right? I mean, you were married over a year ago, right?
Well, we've also been together for over 10 years, so yes.
Oh, okay. So what I'm saying is, I think the honeymoon is over for this guy with the second loss coming to, a junior college here, a double A school. That's embarrassing, man. Come on. I mean, usually the honeymoon's over, like, if one of you's in there, doing a deuce in the bathroom and the other one comes in and brushes her teeth. That's when the honeymoon's over.
Oh,
it's over.
Gator
it's
Richard.
over for John Boy. John Boy with the flat top.
And it's over for you on this phone call. I appreciate it, Gator Richard. Thanks for weighing in. I don't believe that. I'm pulling in my car right now. He was listening. He maybe was even at the game. He was rooting for UTEP football. We know Gator Richard.
He got in the car to listen specifically.
Yes, he got in the car. He knew Miner Talk was on, and he wanted to tune in. As bad as he doesn't want to admit it, he's a closet UTEP fan, and as much as he wants to joke with UTEP, you know what, Gator Richard, he secretly roots in the background for this team. Hey, apologies to all our YouTube followers and people who are watching us on our live stream for some technical issues, but we're back on board. Thank you, Chris, for getting us back on board and back on track as we continue here on Miner Talk. 915-505-6009. This is coming in from Delusional UTEP Takes. Will Coach Walden have a slip and slide for Monday's practice? Hashtag Miner Talk. This is from Eggy Rosario FP. Me, as well as other diehard fans, are with you, Coach, still. Hashtag Miner Talk. UTEP Mineto. The guy talked trash about us, and then he came in and beat us. Really hard one to absorb. This is from Domino Fernandez. I went to sleep early tonight, but I can't stop listening to Miner Talk. I love it, man. I appreciate it, Domino. This is from Brian. I wasn't even surprised. This reminds me of 2018 UTEP, in which we only won one game. Joe Chacon. This, Adrian brought us in Salmontes, and he tags us in the Tristan Pence post that said, how many times does UTEP football have to fail the city before enough is enough? Losing to FCS school in front of 41,000 in your home opener is unacceptable. Coach Walden and his staff should be embarrassed. Quite frankly, they need to earn the Miner fans back. That's right. Gabriel Martinez, I appreciate the Miner Talk still goes on after all these years. First time in many, many years listening. If you're rattled about the start of the season, my advice is to buckle up. This is nothing some of us have to live through. Go Miners. I see a flicker of light. This is coming in from fake Scotty Walden. A burner already, guys. I'll throw Scotty a curve. I think we can beat Colorado State. Hashtag Miner Talk. This is from Gabe Martinez. I'm with the guy. The unis are a miss, huge miss, just bad. We have great colors and past designs that we can build off of, or we can even use again. What are we doing? Also, our lights are so bad in the stadium. It's too dark on TV and in person. They got to be from the 60s. Wow. Yeah, I mean, guys, a lot of brutal calls there, or a lot of brutal messages there, I should say, here on Twitter next. Let's keep it moving. Back to the phones, 915-505-6009. It's Alan who's joining us next. Alan, good evening. What's going on?
Hey, I got three things. One, why are the Miners abandoned Orange? That's number one.
Okay, keep going.
Number two, they played the wrong quarterback tonight. And number three, the biggest thing that everybody has not talked about. UTEP lost their best players last year on the portal, the draft, and graduation. I was watching all the guys that left on the portal today on different games, and they all shined. Running backs for Texas State ran all over UT San Antonio. The guy's going to play good tomorrow, linebacker at Seattle. And the guys that transferred to Nashville, to Penn State, are playing awesome.
Good stuff, Alan. What was your first?
The big curse is they've forgotten UTEP is orange. Don't you remember? Orange and white. What is with all the damn blue?
Alan, I don't know. I defer to Zay on this because Zay says that UTEP's in a bit of an identity crisis when it comes to their colors. I don't know if I'd take it that far, but I'd say that they are in a bit of I'm just curious that they just abandoned orange. Like, orange is my favorite part of UTEP's colors, right? It should be their primary color, Alberto.
Yeah, the most frustrating part, too, is you replace the turf on your field with its own color of orange, and you never ride with that orange. That, to me, is the most egregious part of it all. Is that you spend X amount of money replacing your turf, and then you do nothing to match any of the colors that you wear to that orange on the turf. So it's like, what are we doing here? At least match it to that orange for your football team so that they look uniform. They look the same.
Alan, aren't there like 50 shades of orange? Oh, we just hear Alberto's voice in the background. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate your phone call, man. Thanks for weighing in on the program. Let's talk about the two other points that he made. I want to start off with the best players that left. Sal, you know, when you talk about Tyrese Knight leaving and you talk about Elijah Klein graduating and all that kind of stuff, that's customary, right? That happens every year. That exactly. You're going to have those guys graduate. But to hit the NFL the way that they did and to lose the guys in the portals that they did, that's the loss right there.
Yeah, big time. And Hankins is the one that he's referring to. He was part of that 49-10 routing that Texas State had over UTSA. And, hey, we got to give credit to Texas State. That's a team that they hadn't beaten in forever. That's a rivalry game on their end. That's a win that I don't want to say that can turn the program around. I think they kind of did that and established it last year, that culture. But that's a team that keeps that tide turning for them. So credit to Texas State and company. Deion Hankins getting the touchdown to that one. So, man, a lot of talk about the Power 5 transfers and whatnot. I don't have the names in front of me, so I'm not going to act like I know what they did specifically. But if it's guys in the trenches, it's definitely guys that you're missing because this year it hasn't bode well for the Miners in the first two games.
Yeah, that's totally right. I totally agree with that, Sal. I'll go back to Twitter next. 600 ESPN El Paso on Twitter next. UTEP Mineto, Joe John Sr. This is coming in from him. No excuses. There was no progress tonight at the Sun Bowl. At least Fitzgerald and Walden, best buddies, shared a moment together on the field after the game. Ooh, man. I don't know what he means about that. I didn't see what happened at the end of the game, so I'm not too sure what he's referring to there. Going back to Alan's phone call, the quarterback question, let's talk about it, guys, because I think people are split on it. I think some will say that Skylar Locklear had a fantastic game, and why are you even questioning why Cade McConnell should have played in this one? Skylar Locklear was 22 of 29 with a 76 completion percentage, 295 through the air, a touchdown. On the ground, he had 15 attempts for 47 yards and a touchdown, so he totaled 2 touchdowns today. Sal, how would you assess his play?
I thought the command that he had out there was solid. You could tell that this offense today was attempting to kind of run through the hands and legs of Skylar Locklear. So I can't be on the side to say, hey, you definitely got to throw in McConnell. Locklear, in my opinion, hasn't given a reason to kind of change it. And this is somebody who's on the Cade McConnell train, right? I definitely want to see him thrive, but didn't give me a reason to kind of disagree with him being out there. He played solid, no turnovers on his part today. It's just the next part of it when it comes to taking care of the ball is you got to do something with it. And I think there were a lot of missed opportunities that he knows about. You got to see the reaction, or at least I did on the streams, and you got to see it in person out at the game. Some of the reactions that he had on some of the misses and, inaccurate throws, stuff that he's for sure going to work on. But no, I don't think it's a big controversy. And also to that point, on the pregame interview, I don't know if you guys touched on this already or not, but Locklear is the clear starter for UTEP football. There's no back and forth between him and McConnell. He's going to be QB1 for the foreseeable future, barring any unfortunate news.
Yeah, that's what Coach Walden said, right, Sal? I mean, he said that in the pregame show. Just to clean that up, he was saying that he's going to go with Skylar Locklear as his quarterback. And I don't know if, like you mentioned, there's really a thought about necessarily changing that role right there. All right, Alberto, you give me your thoughts of Skylar Locklear.
No, well, I think he played phenomenal. He had all the 200 plus passing yards. But in my opinion, those comments made by Coach before the start of the match really kind of dictate the way this thing's going to go the rest of the way. This is Skylar Locklear's team, and unless he does something violently egregious on the football field, I don't think they're going to give the reins back to Cade McConnell. Unfortunately, the team scores 17 points in the first half, comes out in their next 2 drives. The UTEP Miners, on their next 2 drives after the halftime, they put up 22 yards of offense. And then they didn't score any points. So for me, at that point, it was clear at that point that the offense wasn't working and that they should probably change. But then they didn't. They stuck with Skylar and they let him play it out. So to me, it's just kind of it's just not going to happen, unfortunately, anymore for Cade. I don't think, unless, like I said, something really egregious happens with the way that Skylar's playing. It's just the things that Skylar's doing, the elusiveness, the shiftiness, and the making something out of nothing. They don't want to give that up. There was several plays where Skylar was the play collapses almost immediately because of poor offensive lineman play. So the play is broken down and everybody in the press box goes, get rid of it. And he doesn't, and he can make something positive out of those plays. That's what the coaching staff wants, and that's why he's still going to remain in the game.
Yeah, he's an improviser. He's somebody who can improv, Sal, and I think that's what they like.
Yeah, definitely, and that's going to be the cause for many moments this year, as we got to see blocks being broken apart and rushes get there when it comes to the backfield. He was able to evade some of those parts or make some quick decisions to kind of get it out. However, obviously a lot of work that needs to be done, but like I said earlier, nothing that I saw today would give me reason to kind of, steer away from Locklear. So we even got to see some big plays, some big throws in the final drive came through, and he had a triple, what do they call it? A hat trick when it comes to hockey: rushing, passing,
and caught a
receiving touchdown.
That's right. Good point.
We can't say this guy wasn't there to win. Unfortunately, Skylar Locklear is not in a position to stop the run of Southern Utah, and that's what happened tonight. It wasn't Locklear's play. It was a lackluster trench play and the great rushing attack by Southern Utah.
Okay, UTEP had 5 big plays in this one. They had a 65-yard pass from Locklear to Cam Thomas. I think that one caught everybody off guard, but, that's the pleasant surprise that he brings to the table in Skylar Locklear. He also had a deep pass to Cam Thomas right down the middle, 26-yard 26-yard pass, a 37-yard pass to Kenny Odom. A nice Kenny Odom signing for the first time this time around. A 44-yard pass to Odom later on. That was in the fourth quarter. And then on that final drive that you're mentioning, Sal, it's a Jaden Smith pass or a catch, I should say, from Skylar Locklear. So a lot of distribution right there. And if you remember on that opening drive, Trey Goodman scored on a touchdown that was negated, called back due to holding. So when you talk about just the totality of things, he distributed evenly to all his different receivers. He did a pretty nice job. There were certain points where his drives just stalled and they didn't really have a lot of success, but you could blame the offensive line, not necessarily blame Skylar. If they would have thrown Cade in, would things have been different?
Probably so, just in terms of play selection, but that's just kind of nitpicking and kind of looking at personnel. Unfortunately,
I think it's unfair to even think either way.
Score-wise, right? I don't think it would have been different because quarterback play is not the reason for a loss the way that they did it tonight.
Yeah, I think so too. And as far as the accountability side for Coach Walden, he took a lot of the accountability.
I heard all of it, yeah.
Yeah, and I heard that too. And I think that's it's a breath of fresh air compared to what happened in the past and how fans really hated the fact that there was not a lot of accountability in the previous regime after games, or like we're talking about here, after major losses. But at the same time, I don't know how this, I don't know what this means for the future. And if you just say, oh, it's our fault, it's my fault, those kind of things, I get it. That's all fine. However, what are you going to do to actually put some wins together, which is what fans ultimately care about. More from Twitter and X. This is from Adam at Adam SF News. Honeymoon period for most Miner fans is over. Unfortunate, but I still believe Coach Scotty Walden is the man to turn them around. Rebuilds just take time. Hope El Paso continues to show up. Good stuff there, Adam. I think that I'm still bought in on Coach Walden to be the man to turn things around as well. I do believe that builds take time, but El Paso doesn't have time. The fans don't have time anymore. They've run out of time. And the fans just want answers and results, and they want it now. Ant Flo at Break Them Ankles 22. Sir, you lost the crowd tonight. UTEP looked unprepared. It's September, and the season might be over already. Ugh, brutal. Brutal stuff as far as what's coming in on Twitter and X. A couple late ones here. Zabuma Fool. I understand it's hard. There's a lot of season left. Brand new transfers, brand new coach, brand new system. I believe they can figure it out. What's figure it out to you, though? What's your definition of figure it out? Is figure it out winning 2-3 games but looking promising in the end? Because I think that's figuring it out for me as far as the standard and the bar that I've set for this team. I just don't think if you're telling me figure it out and start to win a couple games in conference play, I just don't see that happening. Like I would say that if they win maybe 2-3 games in total, that's probably where this is going versus Sal, something like, having a chance to actually have a bowl season or a winning season or anything like that.
I think there's two things that figuring out means to me. So number one would be the discipline on the team, or the lack thereof, right, when it comes to all the penalties. Clean that up. There's not much to figure out. UTEP loses this game based off of the run defense and the penalties. Those are the biggest eyesores when you look at the film and also the stat box. But the other part would be, and Coach Walden mentioned this, he said, hey, last year they started out 0-2 and they reeled off 9 straight. That's because the team made a decision. Were they going to come to work, or were they going to decide to get better? And he said they focused on getting better as a unit. They cleaned up penalty. He said if they clean up penalties, they'll walk away with the win today. And that UTEP has to get out of their own way with their penalties. So it kind of blends in there. But he says he still believes in the process. He's building a program and a culture. And the response to adversity is going to determine the future. So we could get a solid idea based off of these next 3-4 games. So that would be the biggest figuring out, is clean up the penalties. And also, who's going to be on the field beside injury out there that isn't on the field right now, and we might see some different faces out there, or different numbers, I should say, based, in my opinion, based off of the comments that were made tonight.
Jimbo Torres, whoever does a PA announcing needs to get replaced. Don't do anything to inspire or get the crowd going. You got 40-plus people in attendance. I don't know. I like the PA announcer, and I think he does a pretty okay job. Joe Chacon, hi, I'm a Miner fan. We still exist, but we'd like more. Hashtag repping from Colorado now. Hashtag will be repping from somewhere soon.
Is he going to FOCO for the game against UTEP?
Ooh, probably. Yeah. Probably so. He better be out there. Come on, man. And then let's go a couple last ones. Sleepy Kev, I'm sleepy right now. You know how hard it is, brother. It takes years for El Paso to trust Walden again. Losing to an FCS school on the home opener is such a terrible look. Wow, man. Let's do this, guys. We're starting to wind things down. If you've got a late call, now's the time to do it. 915-505-6009. Let's take our last time out of the evening. When we come back, final thoughts. We'll wrap it up here. Miner Talk continues. Presented by Jack in the Box on 600 ESPN El Paso.
This is Mike Norwich, owner of Jack in the Box El Paso and Las Cruces. On behalf of our Jack in the Box team, we want to express our support for all local sports here in the borderland. We have an amazing and storied sports history, and we encourage you to continue to support local athletics. Swing into Jack in the Box, where 2 tacos are still the best deal in town, or enjoy one of our classic burgers, the Bacon Double Cheeseburger, or my favorite, the Texas Double Jack. Just don't forget to add the green chilies. With 15 locations, we're open 24 hours, 7 days a week. We are the perfect spot before and after every game.
Honey, I'm leaving.
But why?
I'm absolutely melting. The AC is broken and I can't stand this El Paso heat.
Oh, don't worry. I called Ignitify for our air conditioning repairs.
Ignitify?
Yes, Ignitify is on the way to fix our AC.
For emergency air conditioning repairs, call Ignitify, 915-539-3040. With Ignitify, the difference is reliable air conditioning. The difference is we care about you, and where the difference is legendary. Visit IgnifyEP.com to get started.
Who doesn't love being in the know? Stay up to date with the latest Chihuahuas news, highlights, interviews, promos, giveaways, and even Chico's latest whereabouts by following the Chihuahuas on social media. We're on Instagram, X, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. Feel like a part of the team and see exclusive content and inside looks that nobody else can provide. Just search EP Chihuahuas on Instagram, X, Facebook, and TikTok to follow. On YouTube, search official EP Chihuahuas to subscribe.
The 2024 college football season is here. Join Sun Bowl Executive Director Bernie Olivas every Tuesday at 5 for the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Watch. Bernie and the Sports Talk crew will pick 10 games each week for the Chick-fil-A Selectum Contest, update the college football standings, and play trivia for your chance to win tickets to the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl game Tuesday, December 31st at noon. It's the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl Watch every Tuesday at 5, only on 600 ESPN El Paso.
Hey, El Paso, this is Freddie Coleman, and now it's your turn to sound off on the UTEP game. Miner Talk with Adrian and Sal is coming up next on 600 ESPN El Paso.
We are back here. R.I.P. Rich Homie Quan. Man, Sal.
Yeah.
How sad.
Very sad news. Yeah, actually, it's crazy. I was working out of town this week, and on the way in, I was listening to some throwbacks, and that's crazy to say, man. It's a throwback when it comes to Rich Homie Quan, but was listening to it, was jamming out, and then as soon as I get service again, hear the news. So very unfortunate.
Wow.
And then also yesterday, man, marks the anniversary of Mac Miller's passing as well.
Oh, no, man.
So two musical. Two guys who have a lot of spots on my playlist, that's for sure.
That's for sure, man. I'll call them legends. Let's call them icons. Yeah. Rich Homie Quan, come on.
Before there was Homie Quan, man.
There you go.
Yeah.
Little lifestyle. Come on, man. Come on, man.
That's
I love Rich Homie Quan. R.I.P. R.I.P. to Mac Miller too. We're continuing here. Our final thoughts here on Miner Talk, presented by Jack in the Box. Big shout out to Chris from Inspo Lens. Shout out to our Twitter followers who've chimed in and listened to us throughout the night on our live broadcast. Shout out to the YouTube live stream as well. We'll be posting recaps here after the fact. We'll be posting Miner Talk on demand as well, wherever you listen to podcasts, so you can listen to us after we wrap things up here. Time to turn the page. UTEP next faces. It's Liberty on the road. The Flames just eked out a victory in Las Cruces against the Aggies. That game was as back and forth back and forth as it could get, but Liberty ends up winning that one. And Liberty's kind of a weird team, guys, because they started off the season with that big win against Campbell. Zay was explaining how it was a little closer than most will note. Yet tonight, New Mexico State had it. They were up 24-17, I think 24-14 at one point as well. But Liberty had 21 points in the fourth quarter to win this one, Sal. Flames next week, and this has kind of become a de facto rivalry, not just for UTEP, but for everybody in CUSA. Just beat the Flames because they're the biggest enemies out there.
Nobody in Conference USA likes Liberty. Nobody outside of Conference USA likes Liberty. That team, though, is a team that plays with the swagger, just kind of like an arrogance. And it's not even about football. It's pretty much any damn sport that they have. I'm sure people who saw the Miners take on Liberty last year at the Haskins Center had some feelings of their own just based off of the body language and just aura of them. But when you win, that's exactly what you can do. And Quentin Cooley able to have a solid day today and a pair of fourth quarter touchdowns. That's the team who won the Conference USA Championship last year, and it doesn't look like they're going to slow down anytime soon. So, no, man, Liberty is they're the new kid on the block who expanded. They're the new kid on the block who gentrified your block, and that's basically what it is, man. It's terrible. I hate them, man, but they're just so good from top to bottom.
You know, they're
despite what's going on behind the scenes.
It feels like Liberty is a program, in all seriousness, where if they end up running the table and go into the college football playoff, and that's not far off to say, if they're the best Group of 5 team and end up being the college football playoff representative, this is Liberty's Conference USA, and everybody else just occupies space. They will rule Conference USA. That'll be back-to-back years. That could also be, I mean, they're seeking to go 22-0 in the first 2 seasons of the league. They'll catapult out of here if they continue to win this way. So that's a scary part of it too. But you know, Conference USA, I think they're going to hold on to the Flames as long as they can, knowing what you're saying there, Sal. They've got the money, they've got the resources, they got the fan support, they have the success even in other sports, and that's something to keep in mind.
And I guess if you're a Liberty fan, the only downside when it comes to their schedule is that their next 3 games, or I should say part of their next 3 games, after UTEP, they will take on East Carolina and App State. Those are probably their toughest tests when it comes to the remainder of their schedule, and maybe the Conference USA Championship game, but kind of playing against a consistent level of competition could, kind of take all the hard work you've done and lower it a little bit just based off of what you're used to. So we may see them win the Conference USA game. It's just hard to feel good about them going into the postseason. Obviously, we're speaking way, way far ahead, but let's say they do run the table. How much better can they really get if you're playing at Kennesaw State when you're going up against Middle Tennessee in Murfreesboro? That's not a tough game for them. It's tough for UTEP, but it's not for Liberty. And then UMass as well. I mean, these are some of the – and Sam Houston, like, come on, man.
Strength of schedule.
New Mexico State, East Carolina, and App State are their toughest matches, and they're all before the month of September ends. So – and just something to look at.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, you know what, guys? I don't have UTEP winning this upcoming week. I have it actually as a pretty lopsided victory for the Flames. I think they'll handle business on the road in Lynchburg, or they'll be at home. UTEP will be on the road, but I think they'll handle things pretty nicely over there. For UTEP this week, I assume that they're just going to continue to try to chip at it, find an identity, see the bright spots, and as far as what we'll learn Monday, come the press conference and come Scotty Walden's head coaching interview, I don't think we're going to learn much. I don't really think there's much to say. Alberto, final takeaways from tonight and final takeaways going into next week here for the UTEP Miners.
Well, there's a lot of room for improvement, especially in the penalty department. I think that's one thing you can't have, especially the boneheaded pass interference ones. Those are really going to sting every single time, no matter what's going on. So I hope to see them cut back on just dumb penalties like that. And it's a rough schedule ahead. I talked about how this Southern Utah game was extremely important so that you could build confidence at home. That's kind of now out the window. You disappointed 41,000 people. At least 40,000 people were disappointed, and they might not come back to see you. I told the people, I told this coaching staff whenever I had to get near them, is the first one is to jump out of the boat is going to be the city. And I think that that's what's happening here today, unfortunately, in front of a lot of fans. But I'm just excited to see what's to come. The one ray of sunshine is it's only up from here.
Yeah, I mean, where are you going from here? You're only going up. So I like that mindset. I'm not out on the season. I'm not out on the team. I'm just on to next week right now. After a nightmarish loss here. As we wind it up here on Miner Talk. Hey, special thanks to Sal Montes, special thanks to Alberto Urreta, and no clue where UTEP Zay is, but early happy birthday to him. His birthday is on Wednesday, so for UTEP Zay, hard work today, and he put it all through this one. He's going to put together a photo library for us. Sal Montes, Alberto Urreta, myself, Adrian Broadus, we put together this one here on Miner Talk for the podcast, and this was all brought to you by Jack in the Box. We'll be back in action next week. Tune in. Miner Talk will be back after UTEP and Liberty, but until then, we're saying so long, and thanks for listening to Miner Talk one more time right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.